Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of April 17th, 2025. As chair of the committee, I recognize we have a quorum, and I call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2025, our last week meeting. I hope everybody had a chance to go through them. It was our public hearing. Are there any questions or comments related to the minutes? If not, may I get a motion to approve the minutes? A second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. And the motion passes. We now move to the town manager's report. Mr. Mizikar.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, we would like to incorporate the fiscal 26, FY 26 fiscal projection to just within your public hearing. That was an
Okay.
error how we developed the agenda on your behalf, so we'll just include that when we go through that warrant article.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we come to the actual public hearing, which we will reopen as we paused it last week. May I get a motion to reopen the public hearing
So moved.
for the annual town meeting?
Second.
warrant? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes, and we are now in our public hearing. All of you would have received an email from Stephen Boxkansky. It was related to Article 29. I did reach out to him, given that we were going to deliberate on Article 29, or the plan was to deliberate on it later tonight. So I reached out to him in order for him or one of his representatives to present the information that they have related to their opinion as far as Article 29 is concerned. So Mr. Chris Crowley is here. I would like to invite him up. Mr. Crowley, if you could introduce yourself to the committee.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening. Chris Crowley from Polar Beverages. Been there a long time, 51 and a half years. So I started as a kid. I started literally when I was 11 years old, but full time, it's been over 50 years. And it's a great family business, and I've gone through the bad old days. And we're really in the good old days now. When I was a kid, it was all glass containers. And you would not believe what it's like working in a glass plant, because it was carbonated. There's 90 PSI inside of those containers, and they blow up. So 22 feet in the ceiling, we're taking light fixtures out. So it was just so dangerous. And people didn't care back then. But Morgan & Morgan would probably have us out of business about 100 times by now. It would just be, it's so bad. And remember, you're in the shower, you drop your shampoo bottle, there was nowhere to move because it would break. And glass is an alternative that people think is great, but it is the worst stuff in the world. And you're basically melting sand when you're processing it. And beverage containers are all about energy. And you process aluminum and glass at about 4,000 degrees, and an equivalent 31-gram bottle in glass would weigh about a pound. So 31 grams versus 454 grams, and that truly is what it is. So you guys are on the right track. You do a phenomenal job with recycling, and we have this big initiative with the American Beverage Association, Every Bottle Back. And I think American Beverage Association awarded you guys $185,000 for the big blue bins. And that's the way to go. Curbside, I remember early on when the bottle bill first happened, we brought all that stuff back into Polar. And within 2 weeks, we were overrun by rodents and cockroaches. So it's a different animal. The bottle bill is kind of, it's dirty, and you want to process that separately from a food manufacturing operation. So a third of the bottles end up really recycled at the bottle bill. Another third end up in municipal waste, and another third just, unfortunately, somebody's going to kill me at a gas station because you always see these guys come in and throw all their cans in the trash. Like, that's not trash, it's gold. And there's a lot of revenue, and it's just so, PET is the most recyclable damn thing in the world. It's just as good as aluminum, but it takes a lot less energy. If you look down here, this is polyester carpet. I have a fancy polyester tie on right now, and polyester's such a wonderful product. And I see somebody over there is drinking a Smart Water, and I refill those bottles about 1,000 times. You can refill those things, but they tend to break or you lose them. And that PET bottle is infinitely recyclable. So I don't know if you guys might have any questions, but you guys are on the right track with the blue bins. And you look at some of the boxed water. People love that boxed water. You can't recycle that anywhere. The only thing you can do effectively is incinerate it, because you've got aluminum, you've got high-density polyethylene, you've got a waxed corrugated that you can't do anything with. So PET is infinitely recyclable, just like aluminum, but it's a lot less energy intensive. So if you look at PET at zero, aluminum is 4 times the amount of energy to process, and glass is 10 times the amount of energy to process. And it's scary how much stuff. When I started, we were a tiny little company, and now it's changed. We buy over 3 billion cans now. We have a plant in Texas, one in Georgia, and one in New York. And we have another 10 plants running our product around the country. So we're not that little neighborhood company anymore. We're quite a bit bigger. Any questions on PET recycling or glass? It's just, and what happens when you do cancel the bottled water? The people are going to go somewhere else, to go to another town. And we see that when in Concord they said goodbye to bottled water, people go next door to buy it. So you can't, Stop and Shop or Whole Foods or whomever's selling product, they're going to they're going to get that alternatively. They're going to get it on Amazon because you're not stopping Amazon. But it's amazing how efficient a case of half-liter water bottles are. I mean, a case of that used to weigh about 1.5 pounds, and now a bottle is 8 grams. 8 grams times 24, I know, less than 1/2 pound. And you can recycle those water bottles. But so any questions? I'm the expert on glass, aluminum, PET, and wax paper.
Rajesh?
Thanks for the insights. I think that's very helpful. Oh, so one question I have, just for education purposes. So what happens if it's aluminum bottles, like a Coke or
Aluminum bottle?
like other tins,
Cans?
cans?
Yeah, it's a great bottle, but it's sales go down when you sell those about, I don't know, 80%. People don't really want them. You can we make canned water, but it's not resealable. The Coors Light, the Bud bottles, they're resealable, but they're incredibly expensive. I mean, a can of that is probably, I don't know, it's probably about 25, 35 cents a can, versus a PET bottle that would be 2 cents, and very recyclable and refillable. It's just, PET, you've got Beyond Plastics and all these groups that just, they show you these islands in the middle of the Pacific that are all PET soda bottles. I mean, they don't really break down. You melt it, you turn it right back into a PET container, into another PET container. So it's so recyclable. And those aluminum cans, they're recyclable too, but it costs, so much more, and it requires so much more energy to process it when you're recovering the aluminum.
Right. May I ask? So, but so if there's an incentive, I think one of our members also pointed out last time, there's an incentive to take these cans back so that they get money, whereas PET bottles you just throw.
The expanded bottle bill. Well,
Right.
I mean, yeah, you're right. There's an incentive, and there's a push in Connecticut. It moved to 10 cents. So now Connecticut used to have a 60% recycling rate through the deposit. Now it's about 80%. And it's all happening on the border communities. So New York and Massachusetts, it's like Kramer and the Seinfeld. Let's drive to Michigan because we can get a dime. So it's just fraught with fraud. And the bottle bill it was a liter bill in '84 when it came in. And it's so sinful to throw any of these packages away because they're so recyclable and valuable. But the fact that we don't have a deposit on water bottles, I mean, it's probably the state wants to do that, but the blue bin is the right way to do it. It's the most efficient thing you can do.
One last follow-up.
Sure.
So Blue Bin is wonderful. I think we all love it. We use it. But the thing is, the ones who are not using it, right? The question is, the ones who are throwing it, and there's a landfill. So as a consortium, what's your thoughts on putting that 10 cents or recycle, getting a PET bag, bottle back?
Well, the carbonated ones are, they do have a deposit on them. But people are kind of lazy, or, I remember our Senate president, who was at Harriet Chandler. She figured out what to do. She had a summer house up in Maine. She brought all the containers up there to get a dime, including water bottles and her Snapple. So it's like, hey, are we suckers? But people are just doing that. But to put a 10-cent deposit on something that costs 3 cents, people are going to start blow molding bottles and return them because, hey, look, I can make money just throwing it away. You see that a lot, unfortunately, with the SNAP program. They'll buy a case of water in some communities, dump it all out, and come back get the $1.25. So it's we're stuck in the middle of this thing. And when you look at the soft drink or the PET bottles, it's 1% of the waste stream. The real problem is you got 99% of the waste stream. What are you doing with the rest of the 99%? And we've got to, from a municipality standpoint, focus on the big picture, not just that 1%. And it's unfortunate that people throw stuff in the trash. It kills me. So that's a fancy container. Is that a Voss water?
It's a glass water.
Okay, no, but this Voss water is just that same bottle.
Okay.
And we're starting to produce that. We make everything else, so we're not just Polar. We make Poppy, we make C4, we make every private label in the entire New England area. We do the same in Florida with Winn-Dixie, so we have 4,500 different items that we sell. And I don't know what percent have deposits on them, but they all have that indicia. And it's not easy because Connecticut just changed to a 10-cent deposit. And they don't want what we put on there, CTRV. They want to have, and there's no room on the top of the can for what they want to put on there. So my brother Ralph and I say, we can succeed against Coke and Pepsi all day, but we can't fight the government. They're going to put us out of business quicker than anybody because everyone's got a different law, and it's tough. It's tough.
So, Mr. Crowley, I had one follow-up question. So, during the course of the petition, it was raised, and this is well-known information, the problem of microplastics. It is a real problem. Like, it's entered human bloodstreams, it's in the oceans, and that is one of the concerns. And I hear you as far as your arguments against it, but what do you say about the problem of microplastics?
It's a problem when you throw stuff away, but polyester is kind of a weird thing. It's a fiber, largely, and you stretch it, and you create these long molecular chains of molecules, of fibers. So it's not, polyester doesn't break down like polyethylene or, polycarbonate. That stuff kind of is brittle and hard and it breaks down. Polyester is more a fiber and it's long polymer chains. So polyethylene terephthalate, love that stuff. And I don't think PET has the same properties that the other seven numbers have. They're kind of a different animal.
Any other questions for Mr. Crowley? If not, thank you for your time, sir.
So what do you get when you have a whole line of bunnies and they all take one step backwards?
I don't know.
Receding hairline. That's for Easter.
Okay, very happy.
It's a bad dad joke. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me
Thank you.
right away. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Okay, I see Mr. Molina is here, so there was a memo that came out related to, from Chris, related to our questions on the CPC articles. So, Jason, maybe you could come up to come up here and we can talk about Articles 33 to 37, was it?
Jason Molina, representing the Community Preservation Committee here tonight. And first, I want to start off with, is there any questions to the memo directly? Just in the interest of time, is there an actual question there? I think the questions that you posed, that this committee posed last time, were pretty straightforward. And I think Mr. McGoldrick's responses were pretty succinct as well. So I don't know if you have any questions to the memo itself.
So I don't know
If
if
you
we
had-
had enough time to go
read
through the memo. We just got it. So maybe if you could briefly go through each point, and then we can talk
Sure.
from there.
Okay. So there was a question that was posed to regarding Article 33. And so the question back, response back, I should say, is the funding balances as shown here. So for FY '25, there was roughly $2.4 million. And for FY '26 is projected to be $2.7 million of available funds. And the projects that are proposed for FY '26 will be within the amount that is available for FY '26. So 802,000 approximately being requested, with a balance of $1,088,000 available to tap into. Of course, those funds these are top dollar amounts. What you really have to look at is the breakdown about how much money is coming from each of the accounts, because we do have those allocations that we have to abide by. And, that is all spelled out in the Article 33 breakout of the 10% allocations to the three reserves, three categories, and then the remainder for the budgeted reserve, plus administrative fees. So all in, these projects, as proposed, would be fitting in within the balances.
Ryan?
I think the underlying question that we may have had was just trying to determine or see what parks kind of are on a list of improvement, and, how does that come about for, money being used and purposed, like what's the next project and how is that chosen?
Okay. So the way CPC works is that we're working with the projects that are proposed to us at the time. Okay, and so those projects are proposed either by community members advocating for a particular project in our community, or it could be town departments, et cetera, that raise those requests. At this time, what we have, Arrowwood was a community-led initiative, right, to have this project move forward. They've already come to CPC, and town meeting had already approved design services for Arrowwood. This next round is to actually fund the project, to create the playground. Of course, through the comprehensive study of all the playgrounds that were done previously, this is not the only playground that needs attention in our community, for sure. CPC is aware of this and knows that there's other projects, but this time, no other project has come forward in this funding cycle to tap into CPA funds. Certainly it poses an opportunity to have a future project come up that addresses multiple playgrounds across. I think there's some efficiencies that could be had in terms of either bonding, if you were to really address all the playgrounds in our community, or taking a couple of projects, putting them together, and having synergy there with a project proposal. But again, this is the project that's moved forward, and given that it was a community-led effort, CPC was really being sensitive to that and really wanted to move something forward in that space because it was community-led.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, just a quick follow-up. I apologize I wasn't at the last meeting, but I guess for town staff, are there any plans from kind of the town side to, we did kind of use some of the ARPA funds to do an assessment. Like, will there be coming forward a more holistic plan around the parks and the community and things like that we would anticipate, to Mr. Molina's point, either through the CPA or through another mechanism?
Yes, and it will take both, right? We know that the cost of the Arrowwood Playground is very expensive, and that's going to be, unfortunately, not an anomaly. So we are going to tackle using that 12 park or playground report and work from there to help improve and provide access back to the community for the playgrounds that we have.
Thank you.
Jean, please.
Could I just ask, what is the communication line between the town and your your committee?
So we do have, the planning and economic department, you know, it sits
Yeah,
on
I know the
CPC.
planning
So
board.
so
Yeah.
we are led by them. And in terms of communication to the community or community?
No, to the town itself, like, there was money available, why didn't the town all of a sudden step up and go after it for another project? I guess.
Just a clarifying question, when you say the town, do you mean townspeople in general,
No,
or do you
the
mean the
ta-
town as in the rest of the
hall.
town management?
I'm talking the town hall
Okay.
on there. I didn't know exactly, you know, how that range of, is it all left up to the planning board to do the communication and look at projects that there's the possibility that money could be used, or?
No, so the CPC receives project applications, it doesn't initiate them, so
No.
it comes from town staff or residents, as is in the case of Arrowwood, and, we have been a little stretched thin with completing the projects that we have on the table right now, especially with the Parks and Cemetery Committee. Being able to manage those in the field and manage them appropriately, we're stretched to the end right now, which is why there's only this one application.
Okay.
So I think what really came up at the Arrowwood Park, Article 34, was the extreme cost. And Chris mentioned to us that it was something about the grounding that was extremely expensive. I think that was why we asked for a cost breakdown for the project. And just to understand, because it is a significant amount for a park. And-
It is,
And if we have 12 of them, that's
Right.
gonna be huge.
And, you know, the CPC had, I mean, I think I was a lead vocal opponent of the initial amount at $1 million. It was at a little over $1 million initial round. And majority of the members felt the same way. And so, you know, I was grateful to see that later on, you know, through continued conversation that was revisited. The scope had been changed to reduce its footprint, reduce the cost. And $600,000 or so is quite still high. However, it is, I think it was a nice balance between, we have a park initiative that we want to see move forward. We know costs have gone up across the board, right? This is not new. We also understand that our community wants to have accessible playgrounds, right? That's really the driver of the cost, right? It's the in-ground poured rubber. It just costs a lot of money. Can another community make a playground cheaper? Absolutely. But again, it's about accessible accessible play structures for the community. And so having the scope be changed down really made that price tag more palatable for the CPC to move forward with this. And we felt that it got to the point where I think we've squeezed enough out of it to try to be able to move forward to town meeting, if we move forward with this and have the town meeting members weigh in on its cost. But we know that any playground we're gonna be talking about it's not gonna be cheap.
That's a good question. Thank you. Thanks for coming here. One quick question. So if it's a cost, so is it, does this go to open bidding, or is it, who provided this quote on what the cost estimates? Is it our staff, or is it third party?
There was a third party that was also involved in proposing what the space could look like. It was the design services. And through that process, they were able to estimate a rough cost of what this could be, but this would have to go out for bid, yes.
Okay. So this
And-
is just an initial estimate for now.
This is a working design estimate. And so that doesn't mean and that's to be clear that the design pictures that were included in the memo that came from Mr. McGoldrich, it doesn't mean that that is the design that's gonna ultimately be, but this is the wish, this is the
Okay.
desire of the committee and what we were seeking, along with community engagement.
Thank you.
Welcome.
David?
So would it be better to pay for the actual design, get it set, the actual cost, and then we get the money for the playground? Because if we say 600,000, bring the architects, you bring in people, do it, and they go, that's actually 800,000. You know, that may be an issue. Do you mean, so sometimes, what we do a lot of times, we give some money, and they get so much of the plans done, and they get a more fixed price? It sounds like you're getting sort of the salesperson price on that. If you understand the question, pay a little bit of money, get a more firm price, and then come to town meeting and ask for the money.
So there was an initial design
Okay.
that CPC funded last year, and then that's how we got to the plans that we have now. So I want any more detail, I would defer down the line in terms of just normal process of how, things get further detailed out in terms of costing, but there was an initial spend on figuring out what to do with that space.
Okay, I misunderstood when the other answer there. Okay, my mistake.
What I mean is that, to the question about whether this will go out for bid, yes. And so from there, they're going to be working with, this is what you can fund. We're looking, where our intention is, I believe it's 3 structures, poured rubber, this is the footprint, this is your space, you have, square footage you're going to work with, fencing, trees. So that's the all-in ask, based on the design that was done by the third party already.
I had a couple of more questions, Jason. Do we have a rough estimate of how many users this park will serve, based on the number of houses around, or,
So I do want to point out that these playgrounds are intended not just for the immediate community, but they're intended for all public users of Shrewsbury. And so, no, we don't have a specific amount of, we didn't have a number that will call out, like, what is the rate, the amount of homes that are in the radius. But it was very clear that we wanted to make sure that this is not a neighborhood-only playground. That's not how our community operates. Yeah.
and the only other question I had, Jason, was, forgive me if I'm wrong, but is it part of the CPC charter to also address affordable housing? I remember that coming up.
So CPC does have as one of its pillars, community housing. And community housing encompasses affordable housing, it just has a couple more flavors to that. So community housing is a tenant that we are mandated in terms of reserving monies into that space. And it really comes down to projects that are put forth to tap into those funds. We do collaborate with the Affordable Housing Trust. And as a matter of fact, we scheduled a meeting, but we were going to have a meeting tomorrow to collaborate on projects, that space, and how to do a funding agreement between us. There is, in our last CPC meeting, a project that was requested by the Housing Authority, because they also have a membership. They also have a member that sits by statute on CPC, Housing Authority, that is. And that project is good. We did recommend the project, and it'll come to the next town meeting after this annual town meeting. So we do want to see projects occur in all lanes, including
And
community.
why I asked that was just basically considering that the amount that we're talking about here. Is there any debate within the CPC that we could use more for affordable housing as opposed to something else? And I'm not trying to step on to you guys and tell you how to do it, but I'm just trying to understand.
No, definitely. That definitely was a debate, for sure, especially in this project, in any projects that take up a lot of the funds for any one year. But I think overall, I think the members are working through right now what is actually coming forward to the committee. If we had a year where we had too many projects asking for these funds and they're competing with each other, that's when prioritization really has to come into play. I would say that the community housing side of things has been a little more harder to work through, because it was just about defining what is the community needs and what can be made, what can be proposed. But I am hopeful that with collaboration with the Affordable Housing Trust, that that efforts will be generated, and especially the Housing Authority. Like as I said, there's a project that will be coming forward to the next special or annual in that space. So, but we do have, those are definitely active challenges that the CPC has to deal with in terms of prioritization.
So one follow-up, thank you. So I think that there's another question, I think last time, if I remember correctly, there's about the parking. I think I know, to my recollection, that Arrowwood Park is like a steep curve where it goes through if you drive by. So is there a designated parking up there? Because there's a lot of complaints coming through that portion of the road on high-speed driving. So it is, so time to time it gets a little contentious on that part of the
Understand.
area. So if there is no designated parking, it may be a little risky for the kids crossing the street. And
I would say the project does not include any parking.
thank you.
And do we know how many, do we know how many people could be in that park at one point of time?
Its capacity?
Its capacity?
Don't know if that's, don't think we can have a capacity. I can certainly look that out here, but I don't recall that being available. Would there be any other questions I can try
Yeah,
to circle back to?
yeah, we can come back to that
Okay.
later. Dennis?
I have a couple questions. One is a follow-up on the parking. I mean, the number of people there, do we know how much street parking there is? I mean, is there room for 10 cars, 20 cars on the street? Have we looked in that?
I don't believe there was a parking study done relative to
Okay.
the project, because the project does not include any parking,
Yep.
you know,
My concern is,
considerations, yeah.
it's a lot of money to put on one park. Go ahead.
So that's been a park for about 25 years already. Like soccer used to use that field for soccer games years ago. There's no actual parking, spaces, but people have typically parked on the street there to use that park for many, many years.
Any idea how many cars would be there? I mean, were they running 5 soccer games at once?
Oh, it might have been one or two.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's a long street.
okay.
So the soccer field, that means what's the square footage of the park? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Sorry, Dennis.
Oh, go ahead. And the second question is, what percentage of the reserve funds is that $600,000? Did we, for parks, do we exhaust that and go into the general fund?
General fund, well, general fund as in the CPC's general fund?
Yes.
Yes. So to simplify the accounting of where the monies are coming from, this project would come out of just the general bucket of CPA monies. Yes.
Okay, I guess my concern there is if you are gonna start doing housing projects, which would be much more expensive, you're doing a park and you're leaving the money for the park projects in the park project, and you're taking it from the overall fund. I would like to see some of that money come out of the park funds, or the recreation, or wherever that bucket is.
So we actually debated about that at the last meeting. And the rationale for pulling it straight out of the budget reserve, that part specifically, was due to just availability of funds on hand with confidence, knowing that the accounting for it was what was available in the park reserve, and I believe it was somewhere like 55,000 as of the time of the meeting. So those receipts weren't up to date, I guess the accounting of it, of knowing what do we project to actually receive in FY '25, closing out this year, to then know what your true actual is gonna be rolling forward. There was a concern that if we put a number in the open space and we weren't accurate in that amount, that we could wind up not being able to fund the project because we got the counting wrong of it.
Could you
So-
fund it from both buckets, though?
You can.
And just
And-
say, we will take up to $75,000 out of the park budget, and the rest will be there?
So that was part of our debate in that meeting, and I teased out whether we could allocate the 55,000 from the parks, from the open space and recreation reserve. It wasn't advisable to do that at that time, and the CPC moved forward with having it all of it go. Again, 55,000 out of 600,000, right? And when we got to that point of like, well, how much are we really making any significant dent here? is there really a point to that? What 55,000, when when $1 million comes into the account every year, it seemed immaterial at the time.
And if $1 million comes into the account every year, what percentage of that would go into the park budget?
So Article 33, historically, including this year, we were putting 10%.
10% of, so 10% of $1 million is what?
So this year, we're looking at 108,000.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, there's gonna be money in that bucket. Now you're gonna have 160,000 in it, that's all.
So along with this is that the coalition, there's a nonprofit coalition that the state promotes for working with CPCs, like Shrewsbury CPC, in terms of figuring out how do you work with your budgets, right? And everything, all things CPA related. They've recommended that if your community wants to have the maximum amount of flexibility moving between the three, this is really three categories here: historic reserves, community housing, and then open space and recreation, or combined as a bucket. If you want to have the maximum flexibility in your community, you would do the minimum of 10% for each. And so the community can decide through CPC action, through town meeting action, is this project a priority for the community, regardless of whether it's one of those buckets. In the future, if our community wanted to really hone in on one of these specific areas, we could be looking at an Article 33 in the future, if you will, that had 50% allocated to community housing. So it really forces the issue of you could only spend from that. So in this, I believe we're now the 4th year of CPC. We're still in the mode of let this be the most flexible. And certainly, we have annually we have a community preservation public hearing to hear from the community at large, and saying, okay, what does the community think is a priority? And we hear projects across the board, and community housing hasn't really come up from a community engagement, but I think this is the best we can do right now to keep a flexible mindset to move forward with projects that do come forth. Not really having a specific project in mind years from now doesn't really put us into the mode right now at this cycle to say, oh, we should definitely say no to one project in order to save monies for another project in particular, because you don't have something to actually look forward to. We know broadly we have these playground efforts that we want to accomplish. We know broadly that our community as a whole wants to do community housing. But what does that look like? It doesn't really feel that tangible just yet to really.
I would argue it doesn't feel tangible because it's not a lot of money, right? It's gonna be multi-million dollars to do something, impactful.
Yes.
Town cities like Newton have used this funds to get rid of their 40B. In the last few years, they built a lot of units, and now they're free of 40B. So, I don't know, I'm just thinking that we should think longer term, not short term for the money. How can it help the community as a whole? And I do think putting up affordable housing would be, just listening to the community every day about how they want to stop this would probably be, if proposed to them, would probably be a very high on the list if they thought it was feasible. It's not feasible with $300,000. It's probably not feasible with $1 million or $2 million. It's feasible with $3-4 million. And to get there, we have to be very judicious what we have for our funds now. But thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Molina? Thank you, Jason.
Okay, thank you.
We shall now move on to our original order. So we will start with Article 3. Mr. Mizikar.
So Article 3 is a article that would allow us to pay any bill that was incurred from services or supplies from a prior fiscal year. At this time, we do not have any bills for consideration with this article. We'll ask that you do not vote to recommend or not recommend it this evening, just in case anything comes up between.
Okay, I don't think there'll be any questions on that. We can move to Article 4.
Article 4 is to adjust line items within the fiscal year 25 operating budget. At this time, we do not have any proposed changes to the current year.
Okay, we can move to Article 5.
Article 5 is funding the override stabilization account. At this time, we do not propose putting any funds into the override stabilization account, as all recurring revenues have been exhausted through the operating budget. We are not using any of the override stabilization account to balance the budget this year either.
So we'll recommend defeat for this one eventually.
That would be our recommendation,
Okay.
yes.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Kevin, in reference to stabilization, would there be any possibility, I went back over the last 7 or 8 years, and we've had at least every year in excess of $1 million that's turned back at the end of the year. We put the turn back available at the end of the year into that stabilization fund.
Well, we have done that, yes.
I know, but this year we're doing 0.
Well, this is the override stabilization account. This is not the general stabilization account. We do propose to put funds into the general stabilization account through a different article.
Yeah, no, I understand there's
Yeah.
2 different ones. The only problem is, as I mentioned the other night, I'm concerned with all these overrides coming, 1, 2, 3, and just one of them gets bumped, we're in trouble.
If we do reflect back on the special town meeting last year, we did have local receipts come in quite high, and once the turnbacks were entered in and we had certified free cash, we did include a fairly large appropriation into the override stabilization. The timing makes more sense to review those figures for a fall town meeting than at this point in time.
Well,
So-
I'm just throwing it out that everybody is in agreement that that's something we should look at. That's my point.
Any other questions or comments on Article 4?
Five.
Oh, sorry, 5, my mistake. Article 5. So, Article 5, into Jean's point, have we explored if there's any other sort of possibility to save money somewhere that we could put into this?
I think we have. I mean, like I said, we're proposing to use all recurring revenues that we have at this time. The state budget is still shaping up. House Ways and Means budget was approved yesterday. It needs to go to be engrossed in the floor in the House. The net result of that state aid position right now is $300,000 greater than we have in this budget. We traditionally, now that we have a solid balanced budget, as Mr. Snowden says, have delayed any other major transfers until the fall. So all things being equal, if no other expenditure requirements came up between now and the fall town meeting, you know, we could put that $300,000 into the override stabilization account at that time. You know, I think we have pretty lean budgets this year. We have healthy reserves. You know, we have $9.7 million in the override stabilization account right now. You know, almost $8 million in the general stabilization account, and about $8.8 million in free cash. That is all liquid reserve assets that we have for the community if something comes up. And, you know, it's almost 3 times, you know, more than any standard policy would have a town maintain. So I feel really confident that we have sufficient funds right now. Could always have more, but balancing those with expending what we need to manage services, I feel that we're in a good spot, and the budget that we proposed is reasonable, and it doesn't draw on any of those reserves, which I think is critical for this year.
Right, so just in a perfect world, if we do have that 300K at the time of fall, the fall meeting, do you have any model in terms of how much it would extend the override? I'm just asking from
Yeah, I mean,
ballpark. sort of.
I think the deficit that we're looking at in the first year that we're in deficit is over $4 million, about $4.2 million. So it, again, every little bit helps. Maybe, you know, We'll see what happens with local receipts, how much we have in free cash. You know, what does new growth come in at as we move into the fall? There may be more than 300,000 is available, and I think we've been rather prudent in prior years of putting those funds away, not just expending them by increasing the budget.
There is no public present, so we can move on. Article 6.
Yeah. All right. Article 6, at this time, I'll go over the motion and the breakdown of funds, and then we'll also go over the fiscal projection 2 items through the PowerPoint, all right? So this is the annual operating budget article. In this instance, we're looking to raise the sum of $161,356,042 in the following manner. We have the taxation and the receipts, which is the larger bucket. The other items that are listed, sewer, water, stormwater, and free cash, these are for offsets or one-time, non-recurring expenses. And the same thing for Selco, those monies represent their debt service payments on their borrowings. So we'll go to the next slide. Thank you, Alex. To review fiscal projection 2, we'll look at the budget overview, the revenues and expenditure updates from fiscal projection 1, and then the adjustments in the municipal and utility side. All right. Fiscal projection 2, FY26. Total difference between this and FP1 is $4.7 million. We're going to be going over in detail a lot of these areas. A big part of that, $2.1 million, is in the other available funds, which represents the CPA articles, which we've referred to already this evening. That's the $1 million in appropriation plus the $800,000. The free cash is most directly related to the DPW project, and then we'll look at where these local receipts and utility revenues are being applied. The expenditure by category. All right, so the municipal expenses will be going up $364,000, which we'll be reviewing on the further slides. Utility expenses, $120,000. I'll go into greater detail on these later as well. Warrant articles is almost entirely related to the CPC. And then the capital improvement plan, this was, at fiscal projection 1, we had set aside about $2 million for the DPW as they were underway in developing a vehicle replacement plan. And they have since audited their vehicles across all of DPW and have come forward with a replacement plan. And it just requires $24,000 in additional funding for FY26. So now we'll look at the changes in fiscal projection 2. All right. First, town managers. This is our archive social subscription upgrades. A big part of the work that is done by Taylor Galusha, the communication coordinator. And then below it, we have the Human Resources Department, which is the salary and wage adjustments for Assistant Town Manager of Human Capital from HR Director. The Assessor's Office is an adjustment to the Principal Assessor's salary. Accountant is an adjustment in the audit standards as provided by the auditor. We were able to reduce the Planning and Economic Development 09 funds for their climate action with some updated figures, so that was able to reduce it by $35,000. Public buildings, based off of the updated rates for electrical costs, we are increasing $116,000 across all municipal facilities. And we're also centralizing some costs into the Business Management Division for, I believe it's drug testing, is that? Drug testing and occupational health costs into the Public Works Administration, and we're drawing those funds from those other departments, Public Works. Street lighting is going up $72,000 based off of the adopted Selco rates, and emergency management is the stipend for the communications officer. Moving now to the intra-department adjustments. So these will be departments within within budget lines within the department. So if it's going from salary to operating expense and vice versa. Health department. We are transferring 2 salaries and wages from the operational expenses, about $286,000. This is part of the the town's IMA in its regional public health approach. We're also identified funds from the other communities that will be supporting the town in this to offset these costs. And then the police department, the funding for the mental health clinician, we are transitioning funds from an annual subscription in the operating expense to fund this position. The funding for this, it was grant funded, and it was not going to be able to be funded given the changes in the higher levels. And this position has been very helpful for the police department. We wanted to make sure we can continue the service. Changes for utilities. All right. We were able to review the solid waste separate appropriations and able to reduce 5,000 there. And water and sewer is going up by 25,000 for a DPW-wide safety training coming out of the utilities. And then also water has funding for its stabilization fund. And that's, I'm happy to answer any questions or. Oh,
I
sorry.
just want to follow up on one. you're
Yeah, go for it.
So I just wanted to circle back to the prior slide and talk a little bit about the health department changes. There's two components to these changes. We're transferring about $140,000 from what was previously budgeted as an expense category, which would have in prior years been paid to the city of Worcester to provide public health services to the town of Shrewsbury, and we moved that up to the salary and wage line items. And then in addition, we're anticipating through local receipts and receiving about, what is it, $176,000 in additional new funds that will come in from the towns of Boylston and Grafton. The town of Shrewsbury will be the lead municipality in a new public health region, and will receive those funds in and expend them for public health services.
Any questions or comments on Article 6?
Could I just ask one question?
Sure.
You said 376 from,
176 in
From
new
Boylston
revenue
and-
from Boylston and Grafton.
Just had one question.
Sure.
What was the stipend for the communications officer stipend? Is that something new?
That's an adjustment to firefighter Joe Milos, who acts as the emergency management communications officer, adjustment to his stipend based off of comparable communities and data we've seen in the area for the amount of work that he puts into the emergency management and those programs.
So out of curiosity, is that a $500 increase, or is the stipend overall much larger than that?
It's a $500 increase to that, and the stipend is,
Stipend's about $6,000.
Yeah.
So the emergency management line funds 2 stipends.
Yep.
For the two, and so I think his will go from 6,000 to 6,500.
Okay.
Dennis, sorry, David.
So when we say we're accepting from Selco 1.3 million, is it?
correct. Yep.
Does that offset all these extra costs, or is that a completely different, like, I know Selco's charging us for the Wi-Fi, for the extra lights now, and is that sort of, we washing it through that, or is that a different thing they're paying for?
That's different, and we'll see a couple different areas of revenue from Selco. This is directly associated with the debt service to their borrowing, so this is to the dollar a repayment schedule. And the reason why it's coming in this budget, the operating budget, is debt and interest, those departments, I guess, are handled in this operating budget, so the funds come in to pay those costs.
Okay.
So I had a question on the mental health clinician in the police department. So was the grant, had it expired or was it withdrawn?
So right now, it's not funded in the state's budget. So previous years, we received a grant, and the position was technically an employee of a private nonprofit that is solely dedicated to the town of Shrewsbury. The governor's budget did not provide adequate funding for that program, and so what we've done is we had the opportunity to make adjustments within the budget, so we're dedicating this. This would not cover the whole cost, but it'll give us an opportunity to see if the balance of the state budget process refunds that and pays for it, and if it doesn't, we'll need to make further adjustments later in the fiscal year, in the fall.
Were there any other lost grants based on the state budget, or was this the only one?
Just, that's the only one.
Milind?
Kevin, this is probably for my education purpose, right? So I see always revenue coming in more is good. But I see on the expenditure slide, the warrant article, the difference is 4.2 million. Like, is there a specific new article that is causing it, or like how do I tie that, right? Just trying to find that out.
So, fiscal projection 1, we didn't include 1,088,000 and change in funds from CPA. So that's one part of it. So if you go to Article 33 in your book right now, you'll see and on page 56 of your document, you'll see these are all the funds that we did not anticipate at that time in the initial budget. Additionally, we also didn't anticipate the revenue that they were using from their existing reserve accounts, which is about another $802,000. So that's about 2 million. Typically, our warrant articles are around 2 million. So that is the substantial part of the funding change right there.
This also does include the 2 million in free cash. So this is just a special topic.
That is correct. Okay.
So this is just the broad use of revenue for the year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on Article 6? Now we can go to Article 7.
So Article 7 is the receipt of $305,512 from Selco Light Department, Cable TP Division, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. And this goes to, as a payment in lieu of taxes equal to the value of the cable plant. So this is used as a general revenue source to offset expenditures of the town.
Any questions or comments on Article 7? Not, we can go to Article 8.
This is a similar article, but it is funding from the electric side of Selco, and it's for $471,253.
Any questions? Article 8.
Just a general question again. So it's good that, we are having these kind of programs to reduce the tax rate. Are there specific criteria to, like I know there is a question going on and concerns that, this body also recognizes that, our seniors need help or something. So are all these tax rates reduction going towards those efforts, or in general, like how does that go?
Look on page, or do they have the book in front of them or not? Okay, basically, they're revenues that are offset, so they don't come in as a revenue that we can then appropriate. It basically is taking off the top from the beginning, so these don't directly go to any programs. It's reducing the overall burden to the resident, and you can best see that on the estimated tax page in your budget book, and you see them at the bottom, page 2. You have all the revenue sources, and then it's revenue to reduce the levy, and that basically gets pulled off the top to reduce to help us get to the 115 million taxation number. So they're not going directly to programs, I guess.
Dennis?
How is the receipts from Selco for this comparing to previous years? I know they're changing their models around. Are we getting less now?
There is an adjustment. We are now using their plant value times tax rate, where before there was numbers that were agreed to in the previous PEG, not the PEG agreement, I might be confusing some of the agreements. This is less than we have seen previously, but the intent is on the Selco end to either provide in-kind support, again, at the fall town meeting to make up a difference.
Okay.
Based off of the general laws that they follow, they're not able to identify more than they currently have available in a pilot payment. And since they have a different year, we're aligning the cycle so that it doesn't put them in danger, and it doesn't put the town in danger for not being able to receive funds that they previously,
Okay, I was just curious, because I know the cable, it seems to be dropping their cable
Yep.
revenues, their fiber revenues are going up, although I think they're well behind on getting it all rolled out.
David?
Given how much we have to raise by taxation, have you figured out the average tax increase to the, how what the tax increase is to each person?
again, on page 2, I think this answers your question. So what we are doing, we are, at the very bottom, the last 4 lines, starting with the value of real and personal property, and you'll see a footnote. Based off of that, we added 528 million to the value of personal property based off of the averages that we've been seeing over the number of years. And
So I see it, thank you.
so right now, we're predicting that the tax rate will go down about 30 cents to 11.73. However, that still equates to an increase of about $280 to the average single-family home bill. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Article 8? Not, we can move to Article 9.
Article 9 is the use of free cash to, again, offset the general expenditures and the tax rate. This year, it's $759,325.
Any questions, comments, Article 9?
Just a quick, how does that compare to previous years?
So it's 259,000, so it was 500,000 in previous years, so we have increased it.
It's meant to maintain the reduced levy amount from previous years so that we're reducing the same amount from the levy.
Quick question.
Dennis?
Are we required to keep it there? So at some point, we could say, maybe put this into free cash or any of the stabilization funds, not reduce.
Correct. You could spend less to reduce the levy, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Article 9. We can move to Article 10.
So this is the solid waste enterprise operating budget, which we had gone through with you in detail during the budget hearings, and no changes have been made to the solid waste budget.
There was a reduction of 5,000 in the separately identified items in the 09, but it was a $5,000 change, a reduction in costs.
Any
I'm sorry,
questions?
there's a $5,000 lower or higher? Looks like it's higher? No?
No, that's the year-over-year comparison. It's $5,000 less than we talked about at your budget hearings.
Okay.
So yeah, don't compare it to the previous column on this slide, because that's FY '25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further comments or questions on Article 10? We can move to Article 11.
This is the operating budget for the sewer special revenue fund.
Ultimately, a change of $12,500. This is to cover the cost of the safety study split between water and sewer for DPW. That's in the, no, that'll be in their operational, their 4, 5, 6 costs.
Article 11.
Good. I just have one, on the sewer. Where do you show the breakout for Westboro?
That's included in their 09 charges, and I do believe in the town meeting book, we identify those, we break them out for you as well. We're just trying to make the slides more
Yeah.
visible for the community, but
No, it was, the only reason I bring it up, it was accelerating at a very high rate there for
yes.
It's on the very bottom of page 40.
40, okay.
5.8 for Westboro, 5.8 million, 350,000 for Upper Blackstone, and 60,000 to this Grafton Sewer Department for collection of sewage.
Okay.
Any other questions on Article 11? We can move to Article 12.
Article 12 is the water enterprise operating budget.
Yep.
And it is also increased.
By 12,500 in the operating expenses for the safety study.
What was the original cost of the safety study? Do you remember?
25,000 that we're splitting between the two, water and sewer.
It was not included at all in
Yeah.
during the budgetary process.
Oh, I'm sorry, misunderstood.
So it's 12,000, the number you said?
12,500 will come from water, 12,500 from sewer.
I see.
Can you refresh my memory? What was the safety study for?
So it is to put a formal safety program in place for the field workers.
Okay.
So gear, protocols.
Which will hopefully save us money.
How many field workers do we have?
Oh, good.
55, 60.
Yeah, if you count
Across
them.
all DPW, it's about 53.
Yeah.
55.
Any other questions, comments on Article 12? We can move to Article 13.
This is the operating budget for the stormwater
No
enterprise.
adjustments, yeah.
No changes.
No.
Article 13, any comments, questions? Go to, somebody, Dennis, you had a question?
Yeah, I've just noticed it's a lot lower than last year, so kudos.
And that's because of the contractual services that seem to have gone down considerably.
Yeah, we last year there were a couple multi-year projects that were funded, so they covered FY '25 and FY '26.
Any other comment, question, Article 13? If not, we can move to 14.
Article 14 is basically a transfer of funding that we receive from Selco and provide to Shrewsbury Media Connection for the operation of PEG access channels. $388,836.
Any comment, question, Article 14? David?
So it went down a little bit. Is that because of our use or because the cost went down?
It's less subscribers.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, thank you.
This would probably come down to zero at some point.
Well, Selco is very generous, and it is providing a cable franchise fee even for streaming customers. That's not required because it is a cable-based fee, but in the interest, they are providing the fee as if the streaming customer was a traditional cable customer.
I see. Any other questions, comments, Article 14? Article 15?
So this is an annual article that we use to pay out-of-pocket expenses from disabled, retired police officers and firefighters. This is, we have all the backup and details, and this year the payment is $7,756. This is associated with Chapter 41, Section 100B that was accepted by the town in 1976 to pay these type of expenses.
So just for information, how many police officers and firefighters
3.
are being, 8?
3 of them.
3.
Yes.
Any other questions on Article 15? We can move to 16.
So again, this is an annual article that we place $20,000 into the insurance trust fund, and we use the insurance trust fund to pay for deductibles, especially associated with police and fire disability claims and other deductibles that we may incur throughout the course of the fiscal year.
Questions or comments, Article 16? Dennis?
What's the balance of that fund?
39,000.
39,000.
39,000.
$39,412.61 right now. And our annual deductible on the police
and
fire.
fire is $45,000.
Millie?
just for knowledge, historically, I know this year we don't have any claims, but historically, what's the number that we get?
So that $45,000 deductible, that we can be hit on that at any point in time going back. So if we haven't met the deductible for FY22, that's why it's in a trust fund, so that we can go back and if, it's whatever claims occurred in that policy year. So if there's an injury and there are still bills being incurred, we are still obligated to hit that deductible. So from that policy year. So it can kind of change anytime.
Just to follow up, so is there like a specific number of years that, the claim can be done, or like?
I believe, so our police and fire IOD carrier, we have been with them since, I believe, fiscal year 21.
Thank you.
So the injury occurs within the fiscal year itself, but sometimes the treatment or the cost associated with that may not hit until future years. But we have that $45,000 out-of-pocket obligation for that fiscal year until we exhaust it.
Yep.
So once we exhaust it, we're keeping track of that, and then we wouldn't have to prepare for any additional costs. Or if we have no claims, we would kind of take that into consideration with how much we put into this account.
Thank you.
Article 16. We can move to Article 17.
So this is an appropriation of free cash into the general stabilization account. This will maintain the general stabilization account at its policy level. We're projecting with these funds to have $8,271,000 in the general stabilization account, which is a little over 5.1% of the proposed school and town operating budgets.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but weren't we around 7-8% earlier? Or that was some number that came up, I believe.
So the general stabilization?
I think that's the free cash as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think we,
Percentage would have to be free cash, 'cause it'd be like 10.
yeah, no, you got the percentages correct. Okay.
Article 17, any questions, comments? Oop. 18,
So this is a deposit of $100,000 from the sewer special revenue fund, which is its free cash equivalent, into its stabilization fund.
any questions or comments on 18? We move to 19.
Similarly, it's $100,000 from water to the special purpose stabilization fund.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So with all these stabilization funds, when we put the money there, so what's the trigger? So do we come back to town meeting members to move the money, or?
Yes.
Correct.
And it requires a 2/3 vote to come out of a stabilization account.
Wonderful, thank you.
Could I just, one quick, on those balances, is there any money owed?
See that?
Do we have any pending bills against those balances?
No.
No, this is balance,
Just
True balance, yeah.
okay.
May I ask, so between all the stabilization accounts, free cash, and everything else, so what's the total number we are looking at?
We would have to
Yeah,
calculate that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
Not
so,
yet.
so the utility stabilization funds, our target's 25% of annual revenues, because they're so capital intensive. If we have a major forced sewer main failure, we're gonna need we could need a substantial amount of money, and that's how we would use those funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Article 19?
Yeah.
We can move to 20.
So Article 20, the general laws require that we set spending limits on 53E1/2, that section of the laws, revolving funds. And so we're doing that through our 2 revolving funds that we do every year. One is the Council on Aging Transportation Fund, and we're setting that at $75,000 of total expenditure cap. And then the second is the Donahue Rowing Center, which is being set at an expenditure cap of $250,000.
What is our average expenditures out of those accounts?
I can tell you just one moment.
So the slide says 400,000. Oh, your slide says.
So
Oh, maybe I'm looking at a different one. Mine shows 400,000.
We changed it.
um,
It was,
so for Donahue Rowing Center from 2018 to 2024, the average is 134,000. And the COA revolving is about $24,000.
We do receive funding from WRTA into this one, correct? And that, yeah.
Any other questions on Article 20? Can move to 21.
So this is the receipt of funds through the Chapter 90 program, which can be dedicated for public roadway repairs and some equipment costs. We don't put a specific amount because the Commonwealth has often provided varying amounts of money throughout the fiscal year. Relying upon the FY '25 value, we do anticipate receiving just shy of $1.5 million in Chapter 90 funds.
Wasn't there some talk of some of the millionaire tax fund coming into this?
Yeah, so we are accounting for that. That is about 500,000 or so of what we're anticipating, because our baseline calculation based upon the formula is just shy of $1 million, and the state has been supplementing municipal appropriations by 50%. So we are accounting for that. This would be the third year that we would receive those additional funds.
Gene?
Have we established a list yet for what's gonna be constructed this spring and summer?
I believe that we do have,
We have a list and we can get that for you.
yeah.
I think that would be interesting to.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on 21? Millie?
So, Kevin, just to understand your earlier comment regarding the millionaire tax, so this 1.484 is inclusive of estimated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the additional funding.
Okay,
Yes.
So currently, for any road repair and things like that within the community, we only rely on Chapter 90 funds, or we have other funding sources as well?
The vast majority of it is Chapter 90 funds. So our major roadway repair and improvements, mill and overlay, and things like that all come from Chapter 90. We are starting to look and plan, because Chapter 90's never really been adequate, but it's starting to become grossly inadequate, and the condition of the roadways in town are really starting to get behind an acceptable value, if you put a numerical value to it, called a pavement management index. And the new DPW director is beginning a study to see if we can identify an appropriation level that would allow that pavement management index to stay where it is, grow by 20%, and just look at those numbers and work with the committee to determine how we should fund roadway improvements in the future.
Have we had any contact with the state in reference to redoing 140 between the center and 290? Because
It's
at
actually
one
being
time
done
that
this
what-
summer.
Huh?
It's being resurfaced this summer, actually.
By the state or by
Yes,
us?
By the state. Yep.
Well, that would be some good information to share with the public, because that was gonna be our expense for a long time.
Yeah. So it is just a 2-inch mill and overlay, but it will.
Be a big improvement.
We will be notifying once they give us a mobilization date, and we make sure that they're actually gonna do it, but we have a letter from them that says that they are gonna do it this year.
Are we gonna interfere with them in any way with the new entrance into the cemetery?
No. We'll coordinate with them for process, but no, I don't see any interference.
Is the 140, sorry, go ahead.
That entrance to the cemetery will probably be done well before they pave. Because there's a driveway entrance and a water and sewer connection there.
Does the 140 improvement project include traffic lights as well, or is that something separate?
Just a resurfacing.
Any other questions? Milind?
Just to follow up on that, so based on this money, like, do we spend certain percentage to kind of fix our existing local roads, you know, especially after winter, right? I mean, there are certain places where it gets scraped, and, you know, are there any certain percentage of roads that we repave
I mean,
every year?
so this $1.5 million, is the totality of that resurfacing program. We patch potholes out of a different account. I don't know if we know a linear, it really depends on the roadway width, but, you know, it doesn't really provide for much. We have about 140 total miles of roadway, and this probably barely gets us a mile.
Thanks.
Any other questions on 21? We can move to 22.
So this is a transfer that we make every year, $18,000 from the revenue that we receive for the sale of the cemetery lots to the fund that we use for the perpetual care of the cemetery itself.
So the last sentence includes enlargement, and I thought we were saying that we were not going to go beyond a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a general term. I mean, we have no expansion plans beyond what we've taken on as a capital improvement across the street at Mountain View Cemetery.
And this isn't just solely for that. This is the general language for the other cemetery as well. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, 22? Move to 23.
So this is a article that we historically fund, but upon review of account balances that we have unexpended for these purposes, we're not proposing any additional transfers this year. But this is what we use for weed management and control within Lake Quinsigamond, and it's in any other town water bodies.
So quick follow-up. So then we would kind of look each year and see if,
Yeah, we definitely do that.
Wasn't this a cost we share with Worcester?
and
The
Grafton.
Lake Quinsigamond part we do, correct, with Worcester and Grafton.
And how do we know, like, is some study executed in order to know whether we have to have any funding for the year?
Yeah, we have like $80,000 on hand, which is about 2.5 years worth of appropriation. So until we spend that down and do the work. We didn't do weed management on Newton Pond last summer, which was scheduled, but we didn't get through Concom in time, but we're ready to do that this spring. So I think we will need to contribute next year, but we're just gonna take the opportunity not to put the funds in that account.
Could I, why are we having difficulties awarding these contracts for the lake and Sewell Pond and Newton Pond?
This past year was just a timing thing of getting all the appropriate permits through DEP and our local conservation commission. Some of the challenges with the funds that we give to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission is it's a transfer off, and that group relies upon Shrewsbury staff to do that work as well, even though the Lake Quinsigamond Commission is not a commission of the town of Shrewsbury, it's its own political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so,
So does it have to go through the state before it comes to us, or allow us to award contracts?
No, it's just the fact that the commission doesn't have any dedicated staff itself and heavily relies upon Shrewsbury and Worcester staff to carry out its work. And, you know, but sometimes when they vote the funds or move the appropriation forward or do the weed study, we just miss the summer season.
Any other questions on 23? We move to 24.
So this is a transfer of $350,000 using free cash for counseling and education services, which is provided to Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services for services to families within the community. This funds 2 dedicated mental health clinicians that are available to Shrewsbury residents. And SYSF has really used these funds effectively to manage their caseload, and it's actually about, I think it's less than a 2-month wait time for individuals to be seen by a clinician at this point in time, which is phenomenal in an in-person mental health environment. So this is really working. We've increased the funds year over year, and we do get quarterly updates from them on the services that they provide, and happy that it's been as successful as it has been.
Gene?
I have a couple questions. Now, they're becoming much bigger. They've just merged with Westboro on there. And we still don't have anybody from the town represented on their board of directors. Yet they're always searching for people to sit on their boards.
There are town residents who are on there, but no town officials. I do agree with you.
Yeah.
I will say the relationship with the new director and myself is much closer, and we're meeting probably at least monthly now, so I have a lot better idea what is going on. And Gene, I know you've shared this in the past, and I've shared that with the executive director, and it is something that we can pursue.
I'm just thinking it's getting very large now with this conglomerate. And I think somebody, I know it's not another duty for you to be communicating and stuff with them, but I would think we would still think about somebody from being represented on that board from the town.
And this is sort of a general question. By the time we go through these articles, what is our free cash levels at?
So we're starting the meeting off with about $8.8 million in free cash, and we are expending what's the total free cash? It's less than $2 million.
From this meeting, that's 2 million almost exactly. I'm sorry, I just had this up.
It's gonna be more than that, right?
It's on the master balance sheet. All right. Free cash. So, across warrant articles, and other funding for the, and capital improvement, we are anticipating spending $3.6 million at the annual town meeting.
We started at, you said 8?
8.8.
Okay.
So that makes, we're left around 5.2.
Yep.
5.2 afterwards, right? Our target, once we recertify free cash, is to be at 5% of the operating budget that was just approved. So with an average amount of turnbacks and local receipts exceeding the budgeted amount, we should easily be back up above the $8 million level, which would put us above our annual target.
So would our annual target be 5% of 187 million?
Just the operating budget
Operating
portion
budget, I
of
see.
it.
Okay,
161.
160. Any other questions on Article 24? So just for my information, I think SYFS does a great job, but do we have any visibility into their budget allocations?
Yeah, that is just the relationship with the executive director, and as a donor to them, we do have those meetings and go through their budget as their board sets it.
And are we the primary source of their revenue, or does it come from elsewhere?
Their budget's a little over $1 million, so I think we're the largest single contributor, and then all the rest of their contributions, come from from smaller sources, but the rest of the contributions are obviously more than ours
Okay.
combined.
Article 24, any questions? 25,
So Article 25 is the proposed capital improvement plan, which individual department heads discussed with you as they came through for their budget hearings.
Correct.
Any changes to that?
The main change is, at the budget hearing, we had 2 million allocated for all DPW vehicles. And as I mentioned earlier, what's that?
280,000.
280,000, I apologize. And an excess of 24,000 was needed for that. So you'll, instead of just seeing DPW vehicles, you can see the fleet manager vehicle, some public buildings vehicles, the parks maintenance vehicles, and a highway vehicle that was identified after they did their asset analysis.
Article 25, any questions, comments? Dennis?
For the police cruisers, I know that was originally set to be hybrids. We talked with the police chief who said they've had problems with hybrids. Is it a possibility they could change this out for regular cruisers?
They could. I think the chief, with all due respect, overstated the challenges that we've had with hybrid cruisers. I mean, we had challenges with hybrid cruisers in the first year that we've gotten them, but we've had no more challenges with those cruisers than we have had gasoline. I know the margin isn't that much greater on the fuel savings, but the price on them isn't that much greater than the traditional fuel, but we will explore the traditional fuel and compare it to the hybrid, both on cost and availability before we make the purchase.
Okay.
And then,
I have two questions. One is related to library. I see self-check units and security gates. So are we adding like new self-check units or like replacing existing one, or is it licensing fee? Like what is that about?
I think these are gonna be new,
Yeah.
totally new to the library.
Do we know how many are we buying?
Yeah, I can pull that up. Just one
And then while you're pulling, the second one is related to the police body camera program.
Mhm.
So are there, again, I know last year, I believe there was pilot done. So are we expanding that, and, is it going to be, how many number of, body cameras that are?
So ideally, this wouldn't be in the capital improvement budget, but it is. It is the annual cost for running the body cam program, so this isn't an expansion. We do have one-to-one, well, more than one-to-one, but, every officer that's out on duty is wearing a body camera at this point in time. Ideally, we can roll this into the operating budget, but right now, this is an annual recurring cost.
Oh, thank you.
Rajesh?
So
No, I thought she was ready with the library, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'll
I
wait.
can wait.
with the fire apparatus replacement, is that for the new one? But we just had one with ARPA funds, right?
We did, this is to start the seed funding, as fire trucks or any apparatus will cost probably over $1 million. So by putting a little bit aside each year, we'll be able to build up a fund to replace one.
Do we know what the estimated replacement unit would be? Like,
1.2, 1.4 million?
like how many units we need to replace?
Yeah, so we have 4 engines. One of them is a backup that we rotate in and out. And then we have a tower, and we have a rescue, we have a brush truck. Our frontline engines, we normally get about 20 years out of them. So, if we're on this cycle of $250,000, it puts us in a good position to buy a new engine every 5 years, which keeps us pretty close to that replacement cycle.
Even the one, including the one we're buying with ARPA.
Yeah. So the one that we're buying will replace engine 4, which is the oldest engine, and it will, the oldest one will rotate out and it'll go onto frontline duty.
Thank you.
I'm sure this is covered, I just don't remember. When we have these last two, which are IT, who's IT?
Just the towns.
So it's the municipal IT.
So this will include two lane gates and one lane gate.
For the security.
Yes.
And then the self-check-in units.
Self-check-in units will be 8.
Wow.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments on Article 25? If not, we can move to 26.
So Article 26 is the sewer capital improvement program for the year that's funded with sewer revenues. In total, we're proposing the use of $2,080,000.
Any questions on 26? Not, we can move to 27.
This is the stormwater capital improvement program for the year, and we're requesting the use of $500,000 from stormwater funds to cover those costs.
Are these generally wear and tear capital improvements, or?
Yeah, so it's drainage system repairs and improvements, so when we do the roadway improvement program, the street resurfacing, we'll go out ahead of those and replace the culverts and the inlets and all those things.
Questions, 27? Can move to 28.
This is the annual water capital improvement that is not associated with any debt. So it is the replacement of one water department vehicle and capital work that we need to do associated with the Porphyron Brook, which is influenced by our drinking water wells.
Can I ask one? Have we ever spent any money on Coal Mine Brook?
We do, yes.
Yeah.
Dave can
In
pull up-
Shrewsbury or Worcester?
Well,
I can probably find the exact detail out.
No, but for
Yeah.
years, we appropriated
Sure.
5,000, 10,000. It was basically to go up there, check the brook out, clean out the brush, clean out the trees. It said all the way up into Worcester. We're way up behind Great Brook Valley where, you know, it originates because it does flow into our waters
Yep.
on there. But for years, there wasn't anything done.
I know we have been spending money
Yeah.
in recent years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Yep. that's fine.
Any other questions, comments on 28? Not, that completes the scheduled list of articles for this particular session. I'd just like to give the committee a chance to ask any other question or comment on any article that they may have, but they didn't get a chance to ask. If not, may I get a motion to close?
Mind if I provide a comment on?
Sure.
Looking at the Porbrook Farm capital article, last year we spent 74,000 roughly, and so far we've spent about 4,400 this year in work there. I can drill farther down to see where it's being done, but I didn't want to
Yeah.
delay too much.
And how much balance is left?
At this point in time, we have, including encumbrances, about 3,000 available without this $5,000 appropriation.
Anything else? May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. And the motion passes. Thank you. That ends our public hearing. Let me just get my agenda. The Finance Committee report. We had a number of comments that Alex shared with everybody in an email. So we should review that now.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, and I know you'll get to this, I just don't know how it'll influence number 5 and number 6 on the agenda with your deliberation, especially as it,
Oh, I missed the deliberation. I'm so sorry.
especially when it comes to the budget itself, just in case that influences what you want to put in the narrative.
Okay, my apologies. We had to go on to the deliberations. I missed that. I thought that was at number 6. Okay, so, let's, start from, we'll go
Take a
from,
break for like 5 minutes.
sure, that makes
That'd be
good
nice.
sense. We'll meet in about, 7:45.
Sure.
All good? I'm sure it is.
Okay, welcome back. We shall now enter the deliberation phase of our meeting. As part of the process to get things done, we shall deliberate on each article one at a time. After deliberations, I will ask the vice chair to make a motion to recommend or not recommend. And I'll ask the clerk, Diana, to second it. So we will start with Article 1. So let me just give everybody a chance to open up the documents. Article 1, this is related to the report of town officers and committees. So does anybody have anything to say on this within the committee? Any deliberations?
No.
If not, Jim,
I move that we recommend Article 1.
Second.
all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay, and the motion passes. Article 2, this is related to the Wright and Harlow Trust, Charitable Trust Fund. We do this every year, so anybody wish to say anything? If not, Jim,
I move that we recommend Article 2.
Second.
all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay, and the motion passes. Article 3, to see if the town would vote to transfer a sum of money from available funds in the treasury, the sum of $1 from free cash to pay to departmental bills contracted in the prior fiscal year. We have been asked to hold on this recommendation till the actual day of the meeting, town meeting. Prior to that, we will vote on it. It will probably be adjusted based on inputs from the town manager's office. So we'll hold on that one for now. We'll move to Article 4. The same thing applies. We will get an update of Article 4 on the day of the town meeting, and we'll vote on that day. So we'll hold for that one. Article 5, as the town manager mentioned, they do not plan to transfer any money to the override stabilization account. So the option for us is to recommend its defeat, unless anybody has any comment or question related to that.
I move that we recommend Article 5.
Defeat.
Defeat, excuse me,
Defeat.
defeat.
David, you had something?
No, it's just funny because we're recommending defeating, not putting any money in. So I'm just walking through the logic of the way it's, but it's,
The motion will be to put $1 in.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the choice would be to put $1 or not?
Not to put $1.
Please
I
don't.
mean, we could put $1.
Sort of it,
You
sure.
did move the meeting up to 6 on me, and we'll be done by 8. Tempting.
So could we squeeze in $1?
35 cents is all we got.
Okay, so let's go to defeat it. So,
Yeah, so I recommend that we defeat Article 5.
Second.
all in favor of the motion to defeat Article 5, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 6, this is related to the budget. Any comments or questions related to Article 6?
I do.
Yes,
And
David.
I've been kind of vocal on this. I do think, and I am absolutely, really like that we all got together and spoke the other day about this. Between the taxes and what may happen with the DPW, you know, we're increasing everyone's funds about $400+ this year in taxes. And we're looking at every year doing that, plus our utilities going up. Selco's building, so the electricity is gonna go up. We have two things coming before us. If we stay with this, the DPW numbers of about $8 per million when we take a loan. If the school's $100 million, that's $800 per family. The override was $700 and something in 2021. We can all agree that's gonna probably be more, though the town manager can correct me on that. So we're talking in 5 years, we may be increasing people's taxes, thousands of dollars per home. And I've asked, like, you know, can we decrease something, you know, bus fees, I pick buses if so many kids have bus fees, for $124,000, we could bring it down an additional $60. So people this year would get an $80 break per kid on the bus, or doing the fees and stuff. So I just wish we were able to reduce some of the burden on people, these young kids who can't afford to rent an apartment in the town they grew up. I have neighbors, the kids cannot buy any place here. I think there's a lot of people who, you know, we do go and assuming that both the school and the override pass, just an assumption, and everything's going up. It's, again, in 5 years, everyone's taxes goes up thousands. So I have to think we have to keep that in mind. Do we want to continue to do that? And at the meeting, when I talked about it, something that resonated with me was when a few people said, well, this is what the people want, and we're going to keep doing it until it fails. So we're going to just go until we get a no vote. And then we know maybe we have to look at what we're doing. I don't like that philosophy, because basically you're doing something, and when it crashes, it crashes. But that seems to be what people need.
I'm not sure, I heard someone say we're gonna just do it to the crashes. I mean, they did say, there are reasons we need an override for this
No,
town.
absolutely.
And, I mean, one reason would be we don't have any money to fix it. We fix 1 mile of road a year. I mean, there's a lot of things we're not spending on still. So,
I agree.
I'm not sure we're gonna be thousands of dollars extra in 5 years.
Sure.
It will be more. You know, but the reason why people can't afford houses in Shrewsbury right now is because we've done a good job, and the community is doing well. And if we stop taking care of the community, I'm not sure we'll be having the same, you know, house prices and everything else. So, I think the schools have been overcrowded for years, you know, space-wise. I think we're missing a lot of programs from the schools that we had, that my kids were lucky enough to go through, and I really believe we should be leaving, you know, we shouldn't be bringing the schools back. If anything, we should be putting them forward every year. It's not like we put a swimming pool in the high school. It's not like we have the Taj Mahal schools anywhere. So yeah, the budget is tough. It's gonna be tough on a lot of people, but I'm still for funding this budget.
And just to be clear, like, the amount that I was asking for is minimal over the budget. And to be, again, if you add up the numbers of the tax increases, never mind the utilities, and the override, and the school, right, it's 8,000. And again, we're projecting out, I want to project out where we are, because if we're going to keep this plan, we're going to keep going forward with this, that's what's going to end up happening. And there was said, we'll know that we reached the point of taxation versus services when people vote no. That was said several times. I don't like that, but again, that's what they're telling me. And it's too bad. I'm not saying take $1 million or $2 million or $3 million off. Probably 150,000 would be fine of moving money around to show people a little bit of relief from all these people who lost their job. It's taking over a year to find a job. And there's all these things out there that are not going as well as we could have gone. That's all. But your point is well taken. You're right. We need to continue our services. Absolutely.
Any other?
I just would say it's important to also acknowledge, did my voice get a lot louder? Excuse me. Sorry. Important to acknowledge that, you know, values of people's homes are going up. That is the larger driver of why things are being more expensive in our town. They actually have decreased the cost per thousand by 31 cents, not 31%, but 31 cents. And I think that that's a good testament that efforts are being made. And I don't disagree with you. I would love to see everything be more efficient. It's like really itemizing where do we cut, and I think that a lot of it has already been done. So just wanted to share that for perspective.
And I do want to make it clear, you know, the model was made and we voted for it. And every year, this committee's recommended, and the select board's recommended it, town meetings passed it. So it's no one, I'm not blaming anyone. Everyone voted it, all went through the proper process. I'm just saying, I'm looking forward a few years and seeing what's going to happen possibly if both of those get done and our taxes increase and utilities increase. And I'm trying to say, you know what, I wish we had think about this a little bit different and gave a little bit back and not always put every over expense back on the taxpayer. Again, over, what was that, $177 for the DPW and $282. So quickly, it's $457 for additional taxes for those two that we're voting on. So $457 more per household right now. And that's not with the utility increases, and that's not with the telco coming online in a couple of years. So I'm taking the utilities out of it. That's just taxes. And I understand 177 didn't crash this year, but I'm just saying what we're voting on. I'm sorry, Mr.
No, that's it. You clarified that. I appreciate that.
So I did have an interesting discussion yesterday with some members of the community, and it was around state aid, and in Tuesday's tri-board meeting, we did talk a little bit about how that earthquake hit us way back in 2008, I think it was. And maybe the path forward is we as a town get together with other towns as far as our state reps and our senators are concerned. How do we basically work with the state to sort of reverse some of these decisions if possible? Because that is, I think, one of the driving forces that could remediate. If politically we could pressurize our representatives to work towards that. That's just one idea I got from the community. But I hear you, David, as far as the strain on many people. But as, in my opinion, as Dennis said and as Brian said, the town's affluence is pushing more expensive services. And it's difficult for us to escape that if we want to maintain that level, especially the schools.
And one of the things that the school committee did do with the extra funding that they had was they did reduce some of the fees.
Well, they reduced $20 for the bus fee.
Yep.
Right, and they reduced it a little bit for the athletic fee.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
So there has been some going back. The question is, if we try to cut back too much, we're gonna be back where we were when we brought in fees.
But we're not talking millions. We're talking $124,000, and it would,
So
60
40,000 residents, so you're talking $4 per resident?
no. If you did that, then the bus fees would drop in another $60. So $80 in the pocket of everyone who has a child in the bus, which I don't have any kids in the bus, so I'm not benefiting from this at all. That's why I picked it. So I thought I don't want to pick something I'm benefiting from, or anything like that. So we're not talking, I'm not saying anyone cut back millions. I'm not advocating for that. But I just think that the mindset has got to change to, we understand there's a lot of people here that $400 and something a year is a lot, plus utilities, plus, let's face it, I have natural gas in my house. They're not doing us any favors, right? And electric, and once Selco starts, the electric's gonna go up through the
It's not
roof.
gonna go through the roof.
They have to pay for all their construction through electrical.
It's not gonna go through the roof.
But I am concerned with people who are not, who are gonna be struggling. That's all.
Gene?
I mentioned the other night, I'm just very concerned that you're gonna have 3 overrides, 1, 2, 3. And just one of them that gets voted down, you've got a serious problem. And it starts, with the DPW, and then we go to the operation, and then we have the schools. And the 2 at the end are the criticals. But I don't know, I think you're gonna get some pushback from the public on there, I really do. Especially the people that I talk to in an older age. They've kind of had enough, and the ones that just can't afford it are gonna put up their homes that are 3 and 4 bedroom type homes, older homes. Younger couple's gonna come in and renovate them, and then you're gonna add to your school systems too. So it's gonna be an interesting, I would say, next 5 to 10 years going forward. And I'm also still very concerned with what's happening in our country. And I think one of these days, the state of Massachusetts is gonna get hit, and it's gonna get hit hard. And I think we're seeing signs of it right now around us, starting off with the colleges, but I think that's only the beginning on there. And then the cities and towns are gonna have to come up with a way to, fulfill those obligations that we're voting on now going forward, and then all of a sudden, we're short dollars that we were relying on coming to us. So that's just my opinion on it.
Yes,
Anna.
if I may, one thing I want to add is, I think we as a community, right? So when these go to the town for vote, the community needs to decide what's important to us as a community. And I certainly hope that we all choose to invest in the community that we live in and maintain the services that brought us to live in this community. But again, it's up to the community to decide that when it comes to vote in the elections. So.
Just a quick follow-up. That's based on the people that can afford the increase, going forward on there, as far as the tax burden goes.
But we do have some ways, some circuit breakers, I guess, the best way to put it, for people that can't afford it, right? They can go,
If you look at the income and who is eligible for it, it's borderline. It's borderline.
then what we should really be talking about is increasing those.
I do share, what Gene is saying, I think there is certain, class of folks or demographics is getting priced out, right? If I may put it that way. And as Gene said, it's a churn, and it happens in every community. I think as collectively the town's valuation is going up, those who are on fixed income are feeling the pinch, so we do need to recognize that. But at the same time, I think, as Brian was pointing out and others as well, that there are good things are happening. I know the other day Dr. Sawyer was saying, we don't want to go back where it was. And I know when my daughter was in middle school, my eldest one, she's in college now, at the time, in Sherwood, they used to, the computers were introduced in the 5th grade, but that were taken away. And she never got a chance until she was in Hope, right? So that program is not back yet. She's already in the college. My younger one is in Oak. She couldn't get to that. So there are certain programs that we cut at the time that even though we as a community are investing into other areas and have gone through a couple of overrides, we were not able to bring those back, right? So we need to be cognizant about those as well. Outside, Shrewsbury is known for its strong school system and, how we manage the finances. I know, social media is always on two minds, like, oh, how are we spending? But, I don't rely on social media. We are looking at these numbers, and I do believe that, we are managing these numbers well. I would recommend that, I think we should tell, I know we already have programs or mechanisms where we communicate with our residents, what we are doing. I think we should find more ways to reach to our residents and tell the success stories, right? Like, what are we doing better? Like this $20 reduction of transportation fee. I mean, I know it because my kids are in school. How many other people know about it, right? So I think I agree, David, with you, is like every little bit thing helps, but we also need to communicate that better. I think we can do better in terms of communication and reaching out to the community and saying like, hey, here is what we did. This is what was there 2 years ago now. This is the rate, and leave it to them. And other thing that we are doing it is like these big projects, we are asking community to vote on. That's another good thing, right? Like, we are not pushing them to say in a certain way. It's their choice, as you said, we are following this as a process, and that's a good thing. We are-
Make one other point
Sure.
on that. I think the most important thing any parent can give their child is a strong education, because that's the foundation for what they're gonna go forward with. And I think we have a large school budget. I'm supportive of that, because I believe we're preparing all of our students to succeed.
Yeah.
And to do better, hopefully, than we've done.
Yep.
So, and that does cost, resources. So, cutting 20, 40, 100, whatever, I think I'd rather spend the money making sure the kids are getting what they need.
One more comment I will just say, sorry, is like, Kevin, again, I know there is another theme like residential versus commercial. We have a good growth story that the other day you shared. This needs to get out, it's like, there is so much assumption in everybody's mind, like, oh, we have warehouses, those are not the right businesses, but yet we have a different answer that hardly anybody knows about it, So I think that's where my comment is coming. I think we should do more in communicating these things, that kind of breaks down those barriers or biases that people have formulated based on whatever information they get from whatever channels, So I will just encourage, Kevin, you and your staff to kind of reach out, even other means, I don't know what they are, to share those success stories.
So I totally agree. I think one of the greatest asset in the town we have. I moved in for the schools, and the people I talk to, they move in for schools. So schools are the heart of our town, right? So providing the greatest good service, better, excellent education is one thing. I think also, I totally agree. Given the financial situation, it's a pinch. It's not necessarily the only single paycheck. Even if you're running 2 paychecks or 3 paychecks, it doesn't matter. It's still a pinch. Comparing from what your dollar used to get to now what you get now at the higher cost. But I do agree. Every cut is a cut in a program, which will never come back. Which never came back. We have the examples of when we had this override, pre-override. We have these programs that have been cut through the curriculum and then never came back. So every cut is a loss of education, a loss of service, a loss of employment, or a part of the service. It's our own community we are serving. So both it's coming from one pocket and going into the other pocket. So I do feel that I think the tri-board meeting was really helpful to understand where we came from all the way, how we landed here. That Proposition 2.5 is a way to go back to the community, make the community understand the needs, why we are asking money, why are these projects are important. So the community at large make that decision at that time. So we are very fortunate to get the last one, and I'm very confident when we show the bang for the buck, ROI on all these investments, I think the community will definitely support. But at the end of the day, it's a community which is deciding whether we want to move forward with this project, that project, or any improvements, anything. So luckily, it's always the community that decides, none of us. So hopefully, we share the great success stories and we share the ROIs that we are, for every buck we are putting in, and the community will give us a positive feedback on that.
Great. Any other comments on Article 6?
I'll just say, a lot of this has been about the schools. And I love the schools. I talked to Dr. Soar and my wife, volunteered at the school. This isn't about the schools. It's about the overall budget. And this is the overall budget that we have. Can we afford? What's the cost? The people in the town that can't afford it. And, just the mere fact that we can't cut $1 off of this budget to help people, like it went up, it didn't go down. And just for me to suggest that the town find $124,000 and not it down. The town gave the schools $43,000 to pay for the first $20 cut. So the schools didn't take any financial hit on that. They might not, but out of hundreds of millions of dollars, we can't find $124,000 to pay for everyone has school children and help them out. That's all we're talking about. And so we can talk about all the others, but that's all we're really talking about here. And again, at the tri-board meeting, people said, we're gonna keep doing this, Dave, until someone votes no. And that's unfortunately the answer I got back from my suggestions.
Anybody else want to comment? Okay, maybe we can get a motion to vote on that.
Move to recommend Article 6.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay.
Nay?
The motion passes by 8 to 1. Did you get that? Alex?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Article 7. Just give me a second. Okay, Article 7, which is related to the CATV division. Okay, yeah. Any questions, comments on Article 7? Related to Municipal Light Department, CATV division, cable TV. No deliberations, may I get a motion?
Move that we recommend Article 7.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All against, please say nay. And the motion passes. Article 8. The Light Department pilot. Any questions, comments on Article 8? If not, may I get a motion?
Move that we recommend Article 8.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 9. This is the transfer of free cash to the Board of Assessors to reduce the tax rate. Any deliberations needed on Article 9?
Just want to bring one thing up. This is, that $759,000 is something we could have taxed, and we're giving back to the community. It's multiple times more than $140,000 we were talking about in the last one. And, you know, we could actually tax that levy, and we could use that levy for other things, but we aren't doing that. So I do want to point out that we are giving some back. You know, and it's, it may not be enough for some people. Maybe we don't do this next time and we put different funding in differently so that the people that can afford a higher tax rate pay a higher tax rate. And then we can rebate other things. I mean, there's things to do, but it's not like we are spending every dollar that is coming in on the budget. So I just would like to point out that this is $759,000 that could have gone to spending in the town and is now going back to reduce taxes.
Rajesh?
Also make sure, I think the town managers team or the select board and everyone, make sure this reaches to the community members, the opportunities that they can come in and apply. If there is some inhibition also, people who really need, but they're not ready to put their foot forward and be for one or the other reason. So we have to also explore the ways how can we reach them with these benefits. That way, it's not paying. It's not the having. They're reaping the benefits of these important benefits. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to extend Rajesh's comment, right? I think if we are able to again, kind of publish just the numbers, how many people applied or benefited out of it. I know the privacy is key here, right? Like we don't want to get their names, but at least we publish that number. That will make a huge difference, Again,
The assessor does do that every year when she does when we set the tax rate, when she comes in and does her presentation. And it's available on the website, but I understand what you're saying.
Any other comments, Rajesh?
Maybe one of your newsletter can cover that, right? The opportunities for taxes, all these benefits. So how many applied? There's still available funds there. That way people do get opportunity to read. Thank you.
Or like how to apply, ease of use, that kind of thing, because again, these are the programs that, community can avail. And I think, that was part of my, reaching out to community comment earlier is like, I think we need to do more, to reach out to them.
Any other comments, questions? Article 9. May I get a motion?
What do we recommend Article 9?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 10, related to solid waste enterprise. Any deliberations on Article 10? If not, may I get a motion?
What do we recommend Article 10?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 11. This is related to the sewer special revenue fund. Any deliberations on Article 11? May I get a motion?
I look that we recommend Article 11.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. Article 12, this is related to the water enterprise. Anybody wish to say anything on Article 12? If not, may I get a motion?
I look that we recommend Article 12.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 13, stormwater. Anybody wish to say anything? If not, may I get a motion?
I look that we recommend Article 13.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 14, PEG Enterprise. Any questions, comments? If not, may I get a motion?
To recommend Article 14.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 15, this is the auto cost for retired disabled police officers and firefighters. Anybody wish to say, deliberate? If not, may I get a motion?
Do we recommend Article 15?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 16, the insurance trust account. Any deliberations needed on Article 16? If not, may I get a motion?
Do we recommend Article 16?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 17 is the general stabilization account, funding of that. Any deliberations needed on 17?
So just one quick question. I know we are at 5%. Is that our policy? Are we intending to kind of increase? Or how frequently should I should ask that way? How frequently do we revise that policy? Like from 5% to 5.5, we have to make it.
We don't, and that's part of the fiscal policies that are reviewed on an annual basis, but we don't, we'll be maintaining it as the operating budget grows at that 5% essentially.
Okay. And is that 5% based on a certain parameters?
Correct. It's of the, I'm going to forget now, it's of the operating budget of the 161 million. Yeah. So as that number grows over time, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further deliberations?
I just want to ask, the 5%, is that in line with other towns? Are we
Yeah, that's-
ahead or below?
It's the Government Finance Officers Association best practice.
Right, okay, so it's the best practice. But we're not well ahead of other towns.
Oh, I think we're,
Behind in some.
well, no, I think we're well ahead as far as having our policy level and our general
yeah.
stabilization account.
Okay.
Yeah. I think many towns have this as a policy, but I doubt the majority have actually the cash on hand.
Anything else? 17? Not, may I get a motion, Jim?
We recommend Article 17.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 18, this is the Sewer Stabilization Fund. Any deliberations or comments on 18? Jim, may I get a
I look
motion?
that we recommend Article 18.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. The Water Stabilization Account, 19. Any deliberations needed on 19?
So again, I believe both 18 and 19, or I should say sewer and water, both these special purpose stabilization are 25% of revenue, right? Is that,
They are not at policy level right now.
but that's something that we have fiscally, kind of putting it on our,
Correct, yes, absolutely.
Part of the 5-year financial plan for each utility, setting a target, and again, not biting off too much at once. It was initially set at 75% of policy level because we didn't want to raise rates just to put it aside. We're trying to balance that.
okay. So 25% is self-imposed,
Yes.
from good practice perspective.
Yeah, all of our policies are correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else on 19? If not, Jim, may I
I
have
look
a
that we
motion?
recommend Article 19.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 20, related to the revolving accounts. Any deliberations, questions, comments on 20?
Could I just ask one question on the Donahue Rowing Center? Did we finish the handicap access?
Handicapped access?
Yeah?
Do you mean the dock?
Yeah. Last year, we,
No, they have not done that project.
Is that project still funded?
it had dollars.
Did we fund handicap access to the docks?
That's what I'm looking right now.
Not through any other
No,
appropriations,
not through any
that's the
other, yeah.
revolving
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
So it would be funded out of,
Yeah, so we've had to go back out to redesign and collaborate better with the users of the docks. If we're in a position during fiscal year 26 to actually take the project on, we may have to increase the revolving account expenditure level, but we wanted to put it back down to 250, which is
Okay.
its traditional amount, but we could change it in the fall.
so that's why it went from 400 back down to 250?
Correct.
And we didn't spend the 400 last year?
That's right.
Okay.
Anything else on 20? Jim?
I look that we recommend Article 20.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 21 is related to Chapter 90 funds. Anybody wish to discuss it? 21? Jim?
I look that we recommend Article 21.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, nay. The motion passes. 22 was the transfer of funds from the sale of cemetery lots. Does anyone wish to discuss it? 22. Jim?
I look that we recommend Article 22.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. So as far as 23 was concerned, there is no expectation for funding the lakes, ponds, and waterways, so we can recommend defeat of this unless somebody has something they wish to say.
I just did have a question, Mr. Mizikar. You had mentioned that maybe part of the challenge of getting the permits in time and the timing of all of them correct is there, the commission is relying on town staff. Has there been any discussion about them providing more funding to have more staffing so that they can handle these things better, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. The only funding that the commission has is to take on projects like this, so I understand what you're saying. It's something that we could look into to see if we could bring a consultant on board, if they have enough money to do that, to really walk us through the process more efficiently with the timing, especially when it comes to Lake Quinsigamon. So I definitely appreciate and understand your question. It's something that we can look into.
One follow-up, kind of, why don't we rely on the city of Worcester where they have a director of lakes and ponds to help us along these lines?
It's the city's willingness to help, you know, and I'm not saying that they don't help at all. It's just balancing that person's time and interests. You know, the Shrewsbury has long been kind of the home of the Lake Quinsigamon Commission, and we've supported them the most out of any community, given the amount of residential access that we have and properties. But it's kind of been the historical battle.
But they actually have a department now. They have more than one individual. I would think they could provide a lot of assistance to us. So these contracts could be put out, and
I don't disagree with you, for sure.
Any other comments, questions on 23? If not, Jim, can I get a motion to defeat
I
Article
recommend that
23?
we defeat Article 23.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to defeat Article 23, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 24 is SYFS, the funding of SYFS. Anybody wish to deliberate on 24?
So I have a question. Gene talked about multiple towns are in this program. I mean, I don't know how much we're paying for everybody else. You know, are those two clinicians just for Shrewsbury
Yes.
people? Okay, thank you.
Yep. Completely separate. The Westboro part of the business and the Shrewsbury part are separate.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else on 24? Jim?
That we recommend Article 24.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 25, capital improvement plan for the general fund. Oh, what is this one? 25, let me just. Okay, yeah. 25, does anybody wish to discuss it?
Just, again, I guess if they can find the gas cruisers less expensive and a better thing, we could do that.
Yep.
And then where would we put that money? If we go back into the,
Yeah, we just return back, just like any other unexpended balance from an article. So back to free cash. So.
free cash.
Just to follow up on that, so if we are moving back to conventional vehicles, so are we also moving back on the charging stations, reconsidering the charging stations at the DPW building, new building, and all those things?
Yeah, so the police cruisers are hybrids, they're not plug-in though.
Alright.
So they're just the regenerative hybrids the police cruisers are.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do we,
Let's go ahead.
do we know now what is the classification, like how many are gas versus the fully electric from,
I don't know, I think, I don't know.
like how far are we into the replacement program
think-
now, you know?
I would suggest that the majority of the frontline cruisers are hybrid. You know, they do have some older vehicles, detective vehicles, that sort of thing, that are not hybrid. But I would say the majority of it, because we've been buying hybrids now since 2020.
Yeah, at least.
2019, so, probably the actual frontline cruises are almost probably all hybrid.
And so from 5 years into the program, like how far are we from, you know, replacing or, you know?
We replace generally 2 to 4 a year,
Mhm.
so.
2 per year.
2 to 4, like there's 4 this year.
Yeah.
So, I think, I don't know how many total frontline cruisers there are.
17,
Yeah, something like that. I think they have about 30 vehicles total.
So we are like halfway through probably.
25, any other comments, questions, deliberations? Jim,
I look that we recommend Article 25.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
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 All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 26 is capital improvement for sewer. Any comments or questions and deliberations on Article 26? If none, Jim,
I look that we recommend Article 26.
Second.
all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 27, that's stormwater, capital improvement plan for stormwater. Any deliberations needed for this? Jim,
I recommend, we recommend Article 27.
Second.
all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 28 is capital improvements for water. Any deliberations? Jim,
I recommend, we recommend Article 28.
Second.
all in favor of the motion, please say aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. That brings us to Article 29, which was the citizens petition. I have been informed that there will be some changes to this petition as the way it has been presented. So the petitioner is working with the town manager's office in order to make those changes. But I would still like, we will hold a recommendation on this, but I still think we should deliberate, given the amount of discussion, inputs that we have had, both from the petitioners and today from somebody else as well, and the discussions we had. So I'll open the floor to CPC, to the citizens petition. David?
So unlike, like I said, unlike the styrofoam and plastic bag, where there were replacement items for it, there's no replacement for that amount of water. Like it's, you put them in aluminum cans maybe, but, so I think it does put Shrewsbury businesses at a disadvantage. I do think people would go to another town. And, I know it says in case of emergency you can give them out, but if the vendors, if they're not ordering in that supply, then they don't have them to give out during an emergency either. So that's my thought on it. I don't think that that product is replaceable, and I think it's gonna hurt the Shrewsbury business.
I would think that might be something that could be done statewide instead of town by town, and kind of just be patient to wait to see what comes from it, instead of kind of, to David's point, why would we hurt local businesses by enacting something like that?
I do agree with both comments, because at one point, like as we are saying, we want to bring in more businesses, attract our town to, more business friendly, and if we are, kind of putting, again, it hurts the local retailers, I would say, and we have so many other retailers around in the neighboring towns also, so we don't want to lose that kind of a business or the footprint, I would say. So I definitely agree with both my colleagues here. I think it hurts, and I do agree with Brian also here. This should be more statewide effort rather than just town. That way, it's more unified, uniform, and as the expert testimony that we also heard here, there are these kind of initiatives happening in neighboring states, so it's a matter of time that it comes to us. So I think we should wait on this.
While I agree with what they're trying to do, I think there's a lot of holes in this.
Right.
I mean, they're exempting, if it's carbonated, it's exempted. If it's flavored, it's exempted. I don't think it's gonna have the impact that they want. I think giving them about a year and a half, just over that, for vendors and retailers to figure out what they're gonna do, I think will be tight for some of the smaller places. So I think what they want to do is a great idea. I think they need to redo it. If you're going to do it, you should do it against all plastic bottles, not just the water bottles. And maybe you could also start with just by putting deposits on it, because deposits will cause a lot of the bottles that are just thrown out the window to be picked up by someone.
Gene,
So-
you had a comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. We had a similar article come before us 5 or 6 years ago. And basically what happened at that time, a committee was formed. We had a series of public hearings. We had an opportunity to listen from all the merchants that were gonna be affected because of it. And I'm just wondering if the petitioners, if we're gonna go forward and talk about this, that they take that type of approach right now, rather than just throw it out for a vote, to review it in a lot more detail, get the input from the community itself, and then talk to the merchants what the effect's gonna be as far as the businesses go. That's my.
Rajesh?
Thank you. I think I do appreciate this students putting this effort and gathering all the information, tying it to the health and the ecological impact, environmental impact. So I do, and their involvement in the civic and community engagement. So I do appreciate, I do commend them. I do, and I also do understand the business impact, and I agree with Gene's comments. I think it's a good start for a change, but I think if we have a committee, look at much more broader portfolio of plastic usage, and then get the community engagement, and then move it to a much more bigger, impactful petition or a policy would be much more meaningful. So that's where I stand right now. But let's see what the new updates would look like. But I really appreciate the kids having that putting that energy and time in building up this petition.
David?
As a point of order, are we going to see that petition again before the town meeting?
Yes, that is my understanding, correct? Kevin?
Yeah, so the way that the article was proposed, it just needs some formatting changes and technical changes as to certain aspects of it in the motion, which we have the opportunity to do. It'll be substantially the same. It's not gonna change the size of, or the definition of a single-use water bottle. It's really just formatting.
Okay, and I'd just like to add my comments as well. I also agree with what everybody has said here. I think it was a great initiative from our young citizens. Hats off to them. But in addition to the economic concerns, I have concerns on the effectiveness of the plan. I did mention that day there is a University of Vermont or Virginia study that studied one of these bans and saw that the usage went more towards carbonated drinks. Pollution as far as plastic bottles went higher, and the health benefits of drinking water were lost as opposed to sugar-related carbonated drinks. But it is a step in the right direction, and as many of the committee members have mentioned, I think this is too big initiative for us at the town level to really understand and implement. As today's inputs we received, there's a lot of energy costs related to glass, going back to glass and all that. So it needs more expertise to make this decision, but it's definitely a movement that should be encouraged. So when we do vote on this, I plan to vote, not to recommend, but at the same time encourage further action by our town on this. Okay, so we can skip voting now, and we will move to Article 30. Article 30 is the abandoned funds detailing. Yes. Any comments, questions on Article 30?
No, Mr. Chair, I will continue to second the recommendations, but I was not able to review the previous public hearing, so for the remainder of the articles, I'll abstain from
Okay,
voting.
thank you.
So.
Noted. Any questions, comments, deliberations on 30? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 30.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 31, this was the land designated for Selco on North Consigamond. 31. Gene?
Kevin, does that land extend into the old landfill?
No.
It stops
this piece.
before it?
Yes, it does. The town, so if you see on the screen, can you see the screen?
Yep.
So the town actually doesn't own the old landfill anymore? Oh, no.
Oh, no, they're not.
So this is the parcel, the old landfill's back here. This is town-owned land and this is town-owned land, but this is not town-owned land.
That's also the entrance to the well, too. Isn't there?
No, the well's on the other side of the road, other side of you.
Yeah, so
postal
this
service.
is the UPS, or excuse me, USPS, the wells are up here. This is the Donahue Rowing Center.
The well is higher than,
Yeah,
Yeah, closer to 290.
yeah, it's on the other side of 290, I would say.
We have some on this side as well.
Yeah.
Most of them
From the drawing, it doesn't seem there's many residential places over there that'll be affected by this.
Visited that.
are. Yeah, so the Lambert Street wells, Gene, are
Oh, okay,
off the
okay.
UPS site. Yep.
What's the entrance that the town owns going down the hill where we took the house down?
That's north of here.
That's where the well is.
Yeah.
That entrance, you go down that road, that's where the well is.
Yeah, that's, okay,
Yep.
that's the first one,
Yeah,
okay.
that was like 265 north of the site.
Something like that, yeah. I don't remember that.
That sits way down in the base, in the
Yes.
hollow,
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's, yeah.
way down.
It's way down, yeah.
Any further deliberations needed on 31? Jim?
Move that we recommend Article 31.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 32 is related to establishing the school building committee and funding it. So, let's go to that page. Yes. Anybody wish to deliberate on 32? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 32.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 33 to 37 are all CPA funds, so we'll go one by one through them. 33 was, CPC. So 33 was basically related to their funding and transfers and reserves. And Jason did answer some questions on this that we had today. Does anybody wish to say anything on 33? Jim?
Move that we recommend Article 33.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 34, I'll open it to the floor. This is the Arrowwood Park playground equipment. I did have some opinions on it, but I'll open it to everybody else first.
I think I've been pretty clear. I think it's a large amount of money going to a small area, a smaller park. And, I'm not sure it's gonna definitely, serve that part of the community, but I'm not sure it's serving the greater community. And looking at the amount of money they're taking for that, based on the budget, that's a large amount of money coming out of the CPC in 1 year for a small park.
Brian?
Are there safety issues involved in this repair? Do we even know? Is it more because of just one improvement, or are there safety issues? And I know this is a question I probably should have asked sooner, but.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just curious if there was a safety issue of the improvement of that park. Is it unsafe? Isn't it that?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
perfect.
most of the equipment has largely been removed because it's
Yeah.
not safe.
Thank you.
Compliant.
Or accessible.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is typical in a lot of our older playgrounds. They remove them as they become unsafe.
Noted.
So,
Sorry, I was just going to say, during this presentation also, I had also mentioned, I think, Dean Park is overflowing. I know recently we made changes in the traffic flow because, people walk around, bike around, there are so many kids. So I think there is an opportunity again, or there is a need, I would say, right, to build a similar size park if given a good space out there. I know, Kevin, you had mentioned about, there could be something that we can look at. But how do we kind of balance that with the CPC, and can we utilize it that way for a greater good of the larger community? Like that's what Dennis was mentioning, like a small park versus I don't want to interpret your comment, but that's how I'm taking is like small park versus larger community benefit, right? How do we do that? I think that is something if CPC can take a look, going forward, I think that would be good.
So could we get the dimensions of that park? Is that accessible, the dimensions of Arrowwood, the size of it? Is that easily retrievable?
I mean, the entire Arrowwood Park is a few acres. It's probably 3 at least. It's pretty significant.
But the piece that they're renovating, how big is that?
Not sure what that size is. I mean, it's if you've been by Arrowwood Park, it's not, the footprint for the actual play area is not gonna be any larger than what it is now. So if that helps.
Yeah, that didn't seem
It's not very big.
very big.
Yep.
So, I've been to that park, I played soccer at that park. I have a similar thing in my neighborhood, and they played lacrosse in the backfield. And I think you said there's 12 of them. And when they come to my neighborhood, they have to park in the street. And that's the one thing, do we want more people going there with all that parking on that curve? That's where I'm kind of hesitant, almost inviting more people to come to that park, which is the point of building it, and then there's no parking except on the street on that corner. So I think that's something they may want to look into a little bit.
Rajesh?
I am also struggling with the total amount cost of the project, and especially when it comes to we haven't used the CPC funds for any of the critical needs for housing.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling. And on the other front, I know that we want kids access the green space, the closer to their homes. It's better to accessible and more motivated. But I think to me, the cost of the project is inhibiting me to go make one way or the other.
Any other comments or questions? So even I am extremely concerned about the cost, given the discussions we've had over housing and strains on the community. So it's a difficult one, given that we want to have, as Rajesh said, play area for our children, but the cost just seems too much to me. And that's something that is turning me against this. There are no other comments or questions. Jim, may we get a motion? Did I cover anybody else want to say anything? No, Jim.
I move that we recommend Article 34.
Second?
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Nay.
No.
The motion does not pass. Did you get the votes, Alex?
I think so.
Okay. 35, these were the ledger, the book restoration. Yep. Any comments? As a history buff, I think this is a wonderful project. It's very significant, and I think it should be on, as we recommended to them, it should be on public display on events
Yeah.
in a protected environment, of course.
I think it's a small amount of money for
Yeah,
that kind of history.
right.
Agree.
Anything else? Otherwise, Jim,
Move that we recommend Article 35.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Article 36, the ADA accessibility improvements in Prospect Park. Any comments, deliberations?
I think it's a great idea, but how easy will it be for people that would need these ramps, et cetera, to get there? I'm under the impression we're not opening the road up to go all the way up there. We're not repaving the road, which is coming where the cemetery side is pretty bad. And even on the other side, it's, again, if you're in crutches or wheelchair, or whatever, it's gonna be a very difficult thing. So, my question is, it's a great idea. I wanna support it, but I'm not sure if it would be used. And do we have plans to maybe, increase the access?
I think we're not aware of any plans beyond
Right.
what this group has proposed for this.
Right.
Any other comments? I personally believe that any accessibility improvements would be helpful. I know there are access issues into Prospect Park, but it would be a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd rather see I'd rather see that money spent where it's more accessible.
Yeah.
So I'm just bringing up, if it does get approved, I'm not saying we shouldn't approve it, but if it does get approved, it's probably gonna be a lot of work and not a lot of stuff done there. So, is there a better place to make accessible?
Rajesh?
So for some odd reason, the CPC grants even from the previous one revolve around Prospect Park and some other parks. So are we only, we're not getting any public participation from other communities for their needs? Is it just
Other communities?
like from other residents, because it's an open proposal thing, right? So, wait, is this Prospect Park is the second or third application, right? For the
I think it's
CPC?
it's the second
One.
They asked for design funds or feasibility funds to rebuild the garden.
Right.
And then I think through that process, they realized that there was not much to rebuild, or the cost would be very high. So I think this is the second for that.
I think the first one was for the pergola, right?
Yeah.
For the feasibility.
Feasibility, and,
For that, to repair or replace.
and they're still talking about trying to privately fund that, from what I understand, which is fine. Again, I don't wanna say, I'm not against it, I'm just
Of course.
saying, I think people need to think, is there a better place to spend that? And I think that's up to the town to decide too.
Any other comments, questions?
So one question about the deadline, right? Like, what is triggering to ask them to extend that deadline to 2027?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Because the CPC, I think requirements, that there's spending timeframes, and the work that they did with the contractor is just asking to extend it. So that's part of the rules and regulations set by the state for management of the CPC funds.
Yeah, so for all the CPC projects, they get basically a 2-year window to spend the funds, unless the CPC extends the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments on Article 36? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 36.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 37, the Jordan Pond multi-use trail design. Any comments, questions, deliberations on 37? Jim?
I move,
No,
you all set?
no, I'm just, that's a good, that's a very nice, good initiative.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
did have one question. I think this is gonna be a $2 million project when it's done. That's the estimate. Who's gonna pay for that $2 million after they get the design and all that done? Is that something that's gonna come back to the town that we're gonna have to vote on and approve? Is that CPC gonna do that?
They're seeking some state grants currently for a portion of that, for the first phase.
What size portion? And how many phases, I guess, too?
I don't know how many phases total. I think the grant that they're seeking through the state's about 550,000.
So it's still $1.5 million that we'd be,
Yeah, I'm not sure on the total
Yeah.
project budget.
and if we do this, they get a $500,000 grant, is there a stopping point where they would be worth if they only got grants for $500,000 or $600,000, if that's all we do, and then we come back, 5 years later and finish it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure they have that planned out, how they're going to ask for the funds and where that's gonna go.
It's a 3-phase project.
But I'm just, in this, I don't see who's gonna pay for the bulk of that $2 million. I just think that's a lot of money to be spent as well.
Any further questions, comments on 37? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 37.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. 38, that was front lottage. The lot frontage, sorry. I'm sorry.
You're allowed.
I need coffee.
Give me a break.
This is the one where we may have to take some land, so we're gonna just not reduce their frontage because of that. Okay. Makes sense.
Any deliberations on 38? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 38.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. 39, accessory dwelling units. We talked a lot about this last week. Any deliberations needed on 39?
So this is exactly like what, there's nothing in this that's not in the state, right? This is exactly, puts us in line with the state. You don't add anything. Is that correct?
It says, to align with the provisions of Section 7 and 8 of Chapter 150 of the Acts of 2024 associated with the guidelines published by the EOHLC. If you want.
Yeah, I think the only addition outside of that is a special permit is required if you have more than one accessory dwelling unit on your property.
And we have to accept these. I mean, the state passed a law, so we can't try to not zone for these units.
Well, if we don't write the zoning bylaw, then it defers to the state's bylaw. So this gives us more control.
But can we tighten this up at all?
So they have tightened it up, and
Okay.
part of the going through the process is, within our bylaw, we can change it and adjust it as needed.
Because, I'm kind of concerned that you can have more than one accessory dwelling
Well,
unit.
I think that's why we put it the special permit piece in
Okay.
place. So there's some control there.
Okay.
So is this special permit, the second ADU is
Yes.
town's additional thing, or is it also state's bylaw?
So the state allows you to include a special permit after the first accessory dwelling unit has been built. So the first accessory dwelling unit is by right, and then you need a special permit to get the second,
And-
to
So-
add a second accessory dwelling unit on the property.
So no more than two though, on
No,
any
you
single
can,
property?
you can have more than two, but you require a special permit beyond one.
So it was my understanding that anything above 4 is considered a multifamily, and then it's a different zoning or something, if I'm misinterpreting.
You may be correct there on, depending on which zone it's in town.
Okay, so if it is, sorry, if
Go
it's
ahead.
residential, then less than 4, right?
Mhm.
And if it is,
We can confirm that with the building inspector, but
okay.
One more question, Chair.
Sure.
Has the town done any sort of look at how many of these units could pop up? Because I know there's still setbacks and everything else. And with all our smaller lots, it may be not likely gonna happen. Just kind of curious if the town has done any looking at that.
no, we haven't.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking there's a lot of lots that are already out, like.
Would agree.
Yes, yeah, because they do have to follow the existing setback
Right.
regulations for whatever that lot is.
Yep.
So if you're required of a 30 or 40 rear yard setback, that this unit needs to be that distance away. Same
Yeah.
thing for your side setbacks. And then there are other items, so if this is a separate unit, there are building code restrictions on how close one building can be to another.
I guess with the people with the small lots, the only thing they could do is build out a basement as an accessory dwelling unit, or, put up an extra floor, build up. Okay?
Does the tiny housing come under this too?
So the units have to be more than 350 square feet and less.
Which is not much.
And then less than
and
900.
less than 900. If you think of the average one-bedroom apartment, those are typically between 500 and 600 square feet.
The reason there's a company in Boylston that's building tiny houses right now. And
And so it's the definition of tiny house, right? It's, this bylaw is controlled by square foot. So some people might say a 900 square foot unit is a tiny house, so that much.
But you also mentioned setbacks and things under the tiny house.
Yep.
The setbacks, as far as the state's concerned, allows you to infringe upon the frontages and the setbacks.
If they're less than 200 square feet. So I think that is one of the pieces that the state included, so that it does require, it does fall fully within the building code, because it is a residence and it does have to meet the, water and sewer standards. It has to meet the NG code. All of those items still apply. When you get to a 200 square foot or less unit, you do not fall within the building regulations. So that may be where you're talking about, because setbacks don't necessarily apply for them
Yeah.
in some communities.
Is there a way to add a language to limit special permits? I'm kind of trying to find out, like, okay, how many can pop up? I'm just trying to do a math.
Not like you could only issue 100 special permits total in town? Is that what you're asking? Like a,
No, I mean, like, if I'm a homeowner, how many ADUs can I build,
Oh.
right?
Oh, per
Like
site,
one,
per,
yeah.
that's something we can,
I guess.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's open-ended right now.
yeah, we can ask that question to see if that's allowed.
Yeah, that's what is bothering me, I mean, like, next thing you know is like, there is apartment building in some weird form,
Well,
going through.
So here's the thing, right? Like when you get into 4 units in a building, that is a different type of situation. Like to your point, right? 4 separate buildings is different. They're still single units. They still fall within that building code. But you do have to meet the setbacks, and you do have to meet the building distances, and you do have to meet the requirements, size requirements for them.
Yeah, my guess is there's not gonna be a lot of opportunities for people to put these in with the setbacks, unless they do a 200 square foot one.
That's not even allowed. Have to be 300.
Has to be 3.
Yeah, so,
Only one driveway still.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
like
in
in
fire and
big
emergency
space.
access is another piece of this,
Yeah.
right? Like, the fire department needs to be able to access these through a driveway or some other,
Only one on the premise, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on 39?
Just a Quick question, again, I'll go back and review, but would there be any benefit to us from affordable housing if the, some of these units come on, and would they count towards that? So would there actually be benefits to our community because of these, or we've not done that analysis yet?
Well, we haven't had clear direction from the state if that is viable or if that is a possibility in the future.
'Cause you have to be able to restrict the unit, so can you restrict an accessory dwelling unit on a property and not restrict the primary unit on the property? Like, there's just some things that we have to work through with the state. It'd be a great idea, it would be a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that, but we're just not sure at this point.
I think that's a great question. Also, I have a follow-up on that. So can we, like, if we have two ADUs and maybe they is renting out at an affordable price, those considered as affordable units, and then it counts towards our threshold, 10% threshold, or?
No, the rent does not qualify, so there's actually some for sale and rental units within the community right now that are affordable by definition, but the units are not restricted, and therefore they do not count towards our affordable subsidized housing inventory. It's the deed restriction, and it has to be formally filed in order to count.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on 39? Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 39.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 40, the electronic devices for voting at town meeting. It's related, Article 40 is related to amending the bylaw.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well.
Do we have a timeline on this, when we are gonna get the beta testing?
I mean, we would move promptly after town meeting. If this passes, we'd have enough money. We could technically implement them in the fall.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Could I do one follow-up? Didn't Westboro implement this and then take it back?
They may have, I'm not exactly sure, that they are an open town meeting, versus representative, and I know it is quite challenging in those environments. But, yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
if Westboro.
I think it was
still
about
uses it.
3 years ago, they approved it, and then all of a sudden they retracted it.
Anything else on Article 40? Jim?
Move that we recommend Article 40.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 41 is related to actually funding the electronic voting devices. Any deliberations, questions, comments? If not, Jim?
Sorry, one quick question, like, who covers the maintenance cost of it?
I'm sorry?
The maintenance cost of those, is it the vendor?
The vendor does offer that.
Yeah, it's within this price. I think it's $900 a year. I think that's what he said.
Is that?
41? Yeah, Jim?
I move that we recommend Article 41.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 42, utility poles and overhead wires bylaw. Anyone wish to discuss this?
Is this the Selco one?
This is the one where they're just fixing wording from the last time we voted on it last year. Where we approved
Not
it.
so much wording, we didn't hold the public hearing.
Oh, a public hearing.
It's like almost identical, I
It's
think.
identical in wording.
Okay. Well, yeah, we did something wrong
Yeah,
last year.
procedurally wrong. Yep.
Okay.
Any deliberations needed unless, otherwise, Jim, if you could.
I move that we recommend Article 42.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. 43, the maintenance of private roadways. We discussed this one quite a bit. Any further deliberations? Anybody wishes to discuss?
I was like, I still struggle with that thing with supporting the private driveways, because when we have more opportunities to maintain our own driveways. But I do understand that it's a emergency, but access. But I hope it won't become a weight from the private driveways. Like I won't manage it, so that town will come and repair it.
Do we ever get a number of how many of these are we actually talking about? I didn't think it was a big number.
120. There's
120?
120 private ways on the list that we pave.
Okay.
Plow, sorry.
Would be 120 officially would be taking over to fix.
Not taking over, just option to repair.
Thank you.
It's not binding on us.
Right.
Yeah.
It does specify too, that it doesn't have to be like up to a certain standard. It's like just to make it passable. It's not like they're repaving these roads.
It really helps the DPW because, especially in the winter with the plowing that they do, the roadways can be bad.
But if it's a private road, they shouldn't be plowing it,
We've plowed them for years.
which I
They pay
totally
the-
against.
They pay the same taxes as you pay on a paved road.
Private road.
I don't care.
I can't drive down that road. They can drive down mine.
I once lived on a private road.
You can drive down
You
there.
can drive down the road.
They're passable.
We had to
Yeah,
pay to fix it.
they're open for public passage.
Go down Oak and it says no, they have signs, don't come down the road, it's private.
They can stop.
But I agree with Gene's comment. I think it helps DPW. Also, if there is a fire hydrant, it helps, fire truck to pass along as well. So I think it's good.
But I think there should be a way to also share the cost with the property other, because it's the private one anyhow. We're shifting resources from one side to other side.
It is solely at our discretion, and, we'll be transparent with how much we spend and how much we request to be able to spend on this through this committee in future years, and we'll see how it goes.
Just one quick follow-up on that. The people on those roads do pay for the sewers, they pay for the water, and some of them even pay for surface drains, even though they're not paved.
Just for perspective, I grew up on a private road in Shrewsbury. They would plow it, but my family, as well as other families, paid to have that road repaved because of damage that was done to it over the years that was not done by the town.
Thank you.
Jim?
Move that we recommend Article 43.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. 44, the wetlands protection bylaw amendment. This was the addition of a certificate of mailing in addition to the certified mail. Either do that, either or. Any comments for deliberations on 44? Jim?
Move that we recommend Article 44.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. Motion passes. And that completes our deliberations on the list of articles for this year's town warrant. And now we shall finally move to the Finance Committee report. There were a number of comments that came in.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I make a comment before you all deliberate on this?
Sure.
Talk about this? If you would, let me, please, thank you. So, I know we've talked this evening about a couple things of, overall availability of resources and trying to set additional dollars aside and reduce the budget. And and I agree with all that. We do that through the budget process, and I know, could you find a little bit more here or there? Yes, we know that we turn all the money back at the end of the year. We're transparent, it goes to free cash, and town meeting has another opportunity to appropriate if those funds are coming back. But as far as the financial condition of the town, as you consider kind of this broad statement that you're gonna make, I'll go back to what Melinda asked, which was to tell better stories. So if I had to tell a story, the story that I looked up while you were deliberating some of those articles is in 2016, the town had $602,000 in the general stabilization fund. 602,000. We have $7.9 million in the stabilization fund now. We had about $4.4 million in free cash that year. And now we have 8.8 this year, and we started with about 12 million. So right now, between the override stabilization fund, the general stabilization fund, and free cash, we have $26.5 million in our stabilization balances in our reserve fund. So we've pivoted how we've thought about reserves in this community over the last 10 years, and we're in a really good spot. Now, that doesn't mean we should spend frivolously. It means that we should be able to absorb unforeseen issues in any given fiscal year in a few fiscal years. We need to be diligent in what we're spending, but I just wanted to make sure that we've made a tremendous improvement in how we manage our reserves and our funds. And as you consider your broad recommendation, I just ask that you think about that when making your comments. So thank you for the ability to provide that.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. Okay, so does everybody have access to the document that was sent with the comments? So, full disclosure, I was the author of comment 1. I was trying to basically capture concerns in terms of individual concerns that came up during the hearings. And just to capture that it wasn't, we never voted on these concerns. So I just wanted to capture them and give it sort of a general sort of feel about it, that there were discussions related to this. I do think that, I personally think that the budget is well planned, and this set of comments was more related to the override questions we had, in which we had discussions, and I wanted to capture both ends. I personally feel we shouldn't put too much detail in these comments. We should make general comments that these were some of the discussions we had, these were some of the concerns that some members had and some members didn't have, in order to be fair. In order to capture the essence of our discussions as well as what we feel. And I was thinking, comment 2, if we could just fit that in, I think comment 2, I tried to capture a lot of that in the first paragraph of comment 1. If we could, I think there was mention about, the only addition I see is basically the hybrid cars.
Yeah.
And I think we covered that now in the discussions we had today. So I don't know, would you still want to put that in?
You can pull that out now because,
Yeah.
you know, I've
Yeah, we
heard,
can, I have no problem. The comments was, we can pull that. I think you put it in my feelings, and when I wrote this, I didn't think it'd be voting no on the budget, to be honest.
Right.
So I think that's all gonna be, that yours is fine.
Okay. So, comment 2, are we okay pulling out at least section 1, because it's covered in point 1?
We can pull the whole comment out.
Comment 2, you're okay with that?
Yeah, it's not gonna matter.
Okay, so we'll pull out comment 2. Comment 3, stating the risk.
So that was me,
Mm.
full disclosure. So I know the other day, in board meeting, we talked about everything. What I would like to see is like, I know we are diligent and fiscally responsible. I think one thing to clearly, again, telling the story is like, we all are interpreting in our own ways what are the risks, which risks are covered, but if we can start stating that clear, like, hey, these are the risks that we are cognizant of, and of all those risks, these are the market dependent risks that we can't control. So, if we come back with certain things, it is what it is kind of thing. But, other kinds of risk are something that we can manage, and those are the factors that we are looking at, right? Because model, everybody agreed upon, like model works, but then if something happens, then what are the factors that are associated with it? That is the risk, right? And so I think if we can clearly articulate that, either as part of the model or as part of the report that we are saying, like, hey, these are the ones that we are always looking at as the signals, for us to kind of, should we keep going, to David's point, or should we, pause, or, put ourselves in cruise control, or should we retract? That way, at least it gives a granularity for any other person looking at it, report itself, not going through the deliberations. If someone is trying to tie those numbers, they can make a sense of it. That was the intent. I don't know if it is well articulated or not. I can put some more thoughts and provide some more story around it. But that was the intent of providing that comment there.
Can I add? May I add
Sure,
to the
sure,
comment?
please.
So I think with the risks, I think this, Mr. Messigar. So maybe in your statement or whatever it is, like the very beginning of the budget book, let's say. So what are the risks, like micro, which are in our control, macro, which are not in our control, and then the ones micro level risks that we have. So what would be the countermeasures if we have the risk, right? Whatever the risk is, it's up to you to figure out, to define the risk. But then you already have those countermeasures in mind, right? Maybe you're discussing with your team. So if you have them listed out, at least community, when they look at it, they can at least review them, either agree with the countermeasure or propose some other improvements. But that's an ongoing conversation as the market changes, as the dynamics in the macroeconomics changes. It's a fluid, sort of a table, I would say.
Yeah. I know that the risk is something that you've asked us to assess in the budget hearing process, and, now through this, it's an ongoing conversation. Would it be possible for us to work on a framework or parameters for something like that to include in a future year's message? I don't think we're gonna be able to pull it off by the time
Of course.
and come back to the committee and have something that we're all comfortable with. But I'd be happy to continue the conversation and build a framework and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm all for collaborative approach. So
When I read this also, I thought it's more of a process
Yep.
that we should put in the process as opposed to making the report.
Yep, I agree, and I'm.
I mean, it could come in the report eventually, but we have to have that back and forth collaboration to be
Absolutely,
able to
I
achieve that.
just wanted to state that, so,
Yeah.
I'm open for that.
Comment for, first section was related to the hybrids, so I think we're okay with that.
Yep.
We agreed to pull it out. The second was related to IT, bringing them together, the security staff into
Yeah,
one group.
we could take that out, but I do think going forward, we should really work with, and, it's, security usually is centralized in most companies. They service many departments because it's easier, having them all work together closely is a much better way to do it, especially if there is a security issue. Having just one person isn't great.
But ask clarification. So why we are trying to pull it up? Why don't we just add it at the end of as like an appendix or something? So there's a conversation happened on these, but we discussed and resolved all these matters.
We could,
That way-
but I think,
That way community knows that we have aggressively discussed these matters and resolved, or at least put a process in to resolve all. Something, it's like a iterative process. Otherwise, there's no reason to capture this, right, in the first place.
Well, I think part of the capturing, from my perspective, was to let the select board know, town manager know where my concerns were. I mean, the issue we all have is, A, finance committee comes in very late in the process and gets hit with all this information. But B, typically we're voting on one full piece of something, and it's either can't, stop the whole thing. I guess we could probably say we don't support the school's budget and we support the municipal budget, and but that also throws the town into chaos, which would probably be more expensive than anything we would actually saving by, what happens if you don't have a budget? I think the state comes in. So my point, I did this so that people would understand, I have concerns, but in some places I will still vote for something because, my concerns are outweighed by the benefit of the rest of the budget.
It's up to the committees, like their members. So I see a value in that. If the community reading any of the budget books, then they have it in there, or we can capture it in the minutes. All these are discussed and.
Yeah, we probably should capture that in the minutes.
Yeah.
It's actually a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good suggestion, I think.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Could we have some sort of document or something, suggestions for further actions, something like that, so we don't lose it?
Right.
We don't go back to the minutes that often. We'll have to go and search. So maybe we have a separate document and we can make it public that these are suggestions we have for future actions. And we can just capture these comments in that.
Yeah, we can.
And so we can track it in future meetings.
Exactly.
But I do think overall, I think comment one does add some value to the overall report to acknowledge the high-level discussions and concerns. So I don't know that we need to pull all of the comments out of the report, but
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Comment one, I think, was.
If we agree as a committee, the comment one will stay, then maybe that's a unanimous, like a consensus comment by the committee. We can leave it there in the budget book, but rest we can capture in the minutes. And
Should we add a couple of lines as far as our opinions on the health of the budget, based on our discussions today? Is that just one or two sentences based on, that's something that's been going through my mind while we're discussing, that we could augment this a little bit. And what I can propose, I don't think we can do that right now. I can take that as an action item, and since we have to go through open meeting law, I send it to Alex, and Alex sends it to everybody else. And then you give your feedback to her, and then we agree upon it virtually, one by one. That's gonna be a trouble for you, Alex.
I
that okay,
actually
though?
think that's a good idea, because we're making recommendations, and, if we think the budget, we probably should recommend that we think the budget is healthy, or
Yes.
not healthy.
yeah, can we adopt a traffic light approach then?
Is that, am I violating any open meeting law by
If you
suggesting that?
vote on the document as substantially complete, we will be able to
Okay.
shape the final comments without.
You could cover that just in the conclusion.
In the conclusion? Oh, we have, I'm sorry, there's,
I know, but there's room there.
oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, maybe adopting a traffic light this year, like we said, all green. Next year, maybe it's 2% said green, 1% said yellow. So it gives an indication overall how it's concerning the finance committee is on the budget, or how supportive is. So a lot of team members, town meeting members, and also community members came to me during the process. They said we look towards finance committee members, because we don't understand the entire budget and all the conversations, but we look for your final decision on these things. So I think those sort of comments and guidance on the budget will provide comfort to the community coming in from the finance committee.
So I would maybe recommend that we continue to work on kind of the framework, right, to Milan's point and Mr. Mizakar's for around risk and around kind of an overall feeling from the committee in a digestible way, but I think we need some time to put together a framework to be able to build into future reports, would be my suggestion. But I think, Mr. Misegar, thank you for kind of giving that comparison, right, of where we were as a community and where we are now as a community. So I support kind of adding something in there in the conclusions. I think that would be good.
So we put that in the conclusion section, or do we put that in the comment section? Jean has recommended in the conclusion section that, could we say that, just align something, that the broad consensus of the committee is that the overall budget is healthy, and we have certain concerns which we have. There were concerns that were discussed, and there were different opinions based on
I would say opportunities to improve.
that. Whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe just a sentence.
Right.
So I can draft that and send it to Alex, and then everybody can review it.
I mean,
from Alex.
yeah, I mean, from what I gather from this meeting we've had, we actually think the town's in decent shape.
Yeah.
Right, we're not, maybe something we could cut some spending, others might want to add more spending, but overall, we're able to increase the fund, the reserve funds every year. So.
David, you okay with that? I see you grimacing a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we gotta keep it simple.
Yeah.
Can't get into too many of the nuances of it all. And like I said, since the override to now, every policy and procedure has been completed. All the open meetings happened, all the possibility of public comment happened. The town manager has executed the budget that was given to him by the meeting members. So I want to be clear, I don't think anyone did anything wrong on that. I just, like I said, for me, this time it was at that tribe meeting, if there's any concessions or any changes, then you better vote no, or we're going to continue straight ahead. And that was why I had to do it.
Understood.
Until I left that meeting, it wasn't. So I think the execution of the budget, I think the town manager's office has done a great job. And, talking to Mr. Stone, I realized how very little I know about finance and numbers. He's very good at that. But I have no problem saying, the management of the budget has been anything like that. I think there's some risks there. I just think differently. I'm risk averse to that. So I have no problem with saying that. And I just think we got to keep away from the nuance. And just overall, I have no problem complimenting the budget execution as what was voted and what was given to the town manager.
Okay, so we'll make that update, and I'll make that update and distribute it. I'll send it to Alex. Great, I guess that closes agenda item number 6. We shall-
But we do need to approve this, correct?
We don't have to vote on, do we have to vote on it?
It says
But then we're going to make a
We
change.
vote.
so how
Vote on it, and if the changes are just kind of substantive, then.
Okay, so then let's vote on the changes of removing comments 2, 3, and 4, and adding a single line, that there's a broad consensus on the good health of the budget at the beginning of comment 1. So, Jim, may I get a motion to approve?
I move that we move.
You say whatever I say.
You moved
Say
up.
whatever Vikram just said. Remove the comments.
Remove comments 2, 3, and 4, and update comment 1 on the health of the budget.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so we can now review the meeting schedule. We will be convening on May 9th, 2025 for our annual town meeting. May 20th, in case it's needed on a second day. And we will reconvene for our final FinCom meeting till the summer break on June 19th, 2025.
I make one comment on the final meeting.
Yeah.
I think Gene brought it us before. I think
The
it'd be
nomination.
good if people wanted to be nominated. Maybe they send it to Alex, and Alex can say who does or doesn't want to be nominated. Or they could even say it during the meeting, so we know, those of us that will come back the next year, who to vote in, or who to vote for. or who the candidates are is actually the better way to put it, but.
That is one
Okay.
option. The other option we thought of was a nomination committee. Within two of us, make that committee and talk behind the scenes to reach a consensus.
Either way, I mean, I just think that anyone that wants to run should be able to
Okay.
make that public and should be in consideration for the next one. I do think what we have done in the past is we've kind of gone chair, vice
Right.
chair, clerk, and then keep going up. So, I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it.
Jean, could you remind us how it was done previously, or?
Well, normally what we picked a couple people. I think one time we had 2, another time we had 3, and basically they sat down among themselves and discussed what people they thought should lead the group. And then they spoke to the individuals and then brought the nominations forward. That's how we did it back then. But we had difficulties at that time because they wanted to keep the same people in place.
Okay, we can discuss this on June 19th and come to a final decision on this.
Mr. Chair, just, that day is a holiday for the town, so we will need to pick a different day in June. So the week before is June 12th, the week after would be June 26th. I don't know if there's, I can send out a poll after this
I think summer
meeting.
vacations start around June, end of June, so we probably want it earlier.
June 12th?
June 12th, yeah.
Let's do it June 12. Kevin didn't like it.
Oh, no.
He's
Not
like,
liking
"Oh my
much
God."
these moments, so.
And then, can we also talk about the risk framework? At least we can start talking about it in that meeting. I know it will be light, our annual meeting will be behind us at the time, so
Sure.
at least we can initiate the conversation. I know it's not going to be a one meeting and done, it's going to be a collaborative approach.
Absolutely.
So on that, Mr. Chair, could we have a 2 or 3 person subcommittee talk about that during the summer, so we come back in the fall and have ideas on that? Is that possible, or is it, I just want to make sure that if a few of us talking about that's okay. Because that way we don't lose the time, and then we can come back in and have a nice presentation on it.
I see no problem in that. Yeah, that's one thing we can formalize on the June 12th meeting.
Excellent.
Yeah, we can do that. Any other comments, any other business? We've actually gone into the other business section.
Yeah, can I say, thank you to Alex, the entire team. I think they did a wonderful job. I think I really liked all the hard work you all do, but I really appreciate the tri-board meeting, how quickly you organized and you showed the historic perspective on it. That's very valuable for a lot of, majority of the information was utilized yesterday in the candidate forum, so it is very, very valuable. And also I like the quickly pivoting on the suggestions related to death falling charts and everything. And also I like the one that with the footnote to every warrant. That is very helpful to have that, to see what's the perspective, the broader perspective and everything. So I think if we can keep that continuing, that is very helpful. But overall, thank you all, everyone from your team.
Second that, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, any other business? If not, we go to correspondence. We received an email from Mr. John Wensky regarding the DMG School District Report on April 15, 2025. Any comment on the correspondence we received? If not, may I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, please say nay. The motion passes. Thank you all.
Gosh, that sounds.